looking at that material I was talking about, and we had to go back in and just re-scarify it, just to make sure it's right. So it has been a very slow process because of space and that sort of thing. So hopefully, you know, within the next week or so, they'll have all the piping in for the field, and then we took out all the piping from the distribution boxes, and we're going into the field and put all compacted stone around the distribution boxes, so there won't be any settlement of pipes coming out of distribution boxes. So I think that's it. So hopefully, within, you know, maybe 2-3 weeks or so, we'll have that field set up and ready for inspection.
So we'll still need to see the design with the Infra Plus.
Yes, yeah. So that's Stantec that's working on that. We're not
Okay.
working on that. So they do have the design complete. I think it's they did circulate it with the team. I know we saw the plans this morning. I know Scott has had in contact with Kevin from Stantec. Kevin's not here tonight. He thought he was going to be there, but
Yeah, I talked to him last week.
Yeah.
I don't think it was substantial. He probably asked us a question, I think, last week.
So they still have to come to the board.
We haven't submitted, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. George?
I just have a question. What was the product that came out of there? Simple septic, or was it their more advanced one? What was the pipe that came out?
The Presby and Viro septic.
Yeah, okay. Was it the simple, it had the fabric wrap with the green stuff and the
Correct.
sandwich there, and it was replaced with the exact same material?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
John?
So I'm new to this, so this may be a question which, is there just one field or there's two fields?
There's 2 fields.
And do you have the ability to alternate between them so you can rest one? Or are you going into both of them all the time?
No, they do alternate. There are 2 pumps, and so one pump feeds one field, one pump feeds the other field. And there's a pump control valve so that, like we had to do, we were operating on one field, so we still ran both pumps, but they went to the same field. So, but ideally, they alternate, you know, from one field to the next.
Unless it's a full design load, then the whole field is.
They're using both all the time.
If it was a full design load, yeah.
Mhm.
And at this point, we're still pumping now 100% off-site, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the documentation we received, a big packet, but it was older testing results from the end of August and stuff. So I don't think, is there any questions on any of that we received? I think we had asked for documentation last time because we didn't have all of it. Ben?
There was just one really strange sampling on the 11th August.
You pulled that one out.
You pulled that one out too? Okay. Yeah, I think I probably some kind of mislabeling or something like that, but the you know, the BOD and the total suspended solids looks like influent, but the nitrogen. Anyway, there's some kind of, it's just particularly strange.
Yeah, it almost looks like effluent and influent are reversed on the table, because I didn't look at those, but I looked at total nitrogen is 274 milligrams per liter in the effluent,
Do we want to ask when we anticipate?
whereas total nitrogen in the influent is 5.6. So beautiful number if it were effluent. And so I think those are reversed, but it also shows that you hit the mark by a good, you got half of your regulated level there on that particular day.
But the BOD on that sample was very high. So, something very peculiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we can check with Whitewater. You said it was on the 11th?
Yeah.
August
August
11th,
11th.
yeah.
I think maybe it's just,
You know, this.
Might get
I don't know.
transposed.
You make 100 measurements, you're gonna have.
Yeah.
Transcription error.
Transcription error.
Things happen,
Yeah.
but, anyway.
There's some pretty good, some numbers that now and then they're hitting the target.
Mhm.
Okay, any more, John, did you have a question?
I just was sort of curious when you anticipate we'll see a final plan of what the treatment facility will look like and what that train of treatment will be?
I'm not really sure. Well, like I said, we saw the plan today from Kevin Klein's office, and it looks pretty complete.
So should we request that we see that the next, they're coming back, what, another month?
We hadn't determined frequency at this point. They were still working out their plan and pumping everything off. So there's no public safety issue. So we can ask for that unless we want to just wait till they're ready and then put it on the agenda at that time. Did you,
I think we had asked them monthly, for monthly
Yes.
reports.
okay? Yeah,
But
Yeah, so.
we just, they're pumping everything off-site at this point, so as long as they're making good progress on the plan they laid out for us, I guess they can show us that plan when they're ready. I'm not sure it's,
well, if you've seen it, so hopefully it'd be ready within a month, I would hope that, and maybe within the 2-week period, they may be ready to present it to us, I don't know. Scott?
Well, first off, you need some sort of a deadline, because it's gonna take quite some time to get the parts in, we talked about this last time, and install. And you don't wanna be pushing that tide situation where you're pushing it into April or March.
Well, they had a timeline of
Yeah.
February,
That's true.
end of February, there was
Right.
that
I
timeline.
mean, that's what I'm saying, like, so it
Yeah.
behooves them to come back.
Right,
And
right.
I think that.
Yeah, Scott?
So, and this is more for Dawn, one of the things before I issue a certificate of compliance on it, I think we need, the one thing we haven't talked about is the collection system. We've started the tank, you know, we had issues with the baffle in the tank, we know the field's a mess. Well, it was a mess. It looked a lot better than we thought it would look like when we went out there, I'll give you that. Have we checked all our collection system to make sure there's no cracks, breaks, things of that nature, everything's working okay till it gets to the tank? We've sort of not talked about it in any of the meetings, but there's 3 components, the collection system, the tank, with the pump and the IA, and then going out to the field. Okay, we figured out the field, we figured out what's going on in the tanks, but have we really checked the collection system? You know, for cracks, you know, because we know what happened when some of the D-boxes getting knocked over. You do that with a collection manhole, sewer manhole, you know, there might be something like that. So I just think before I give the compliance out, if you want to make a motion or not, is I think we need to make sure we got that dialed down.
We can recheck the manholes and everything, but before it went online, we actually hired a camera crew to go out there, and we cameraed
Yeah, I
all
know.
the sewer lines.
But you thought that we thought,
Yeah.
because we inspected it too, that the
Yeah.
field was in good shape, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, you know, granted, you checked it right before they backfilled, much like the
Mhm.
field. How do we know they didn't have a rock knock off a sewer manhole and there's a pipe exposed? We're pumping 100% out of that tank, but 96% is only getting that, right?
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think there comes a time before, you know, you guys have done a great job spending 2 days in the field, in the leaching field. The tank, you know, you had the problems in 2021 with the baffle construction, but we just sort of not discussed the collection system yet. I think we just need to make sure that the collection system, it doesn't have any flaws in it, from bad backfilling bellies, things of that nature.
That's actually why we ran the cameras in there.
But
When did you run
after
it
they
in?
backfill.
What's that?
When did you run those cameras?
No, they were backfilled.
Okay.
Before the system was put online, we were concerned about any rocks or gravel or anything being in the pipes or the pipe system, because we saw some evidence of it through the manholes, and we did find a few lines did have some sediment that had to be cleaned out, and we had to jet some of the lines out to make sure that they were clear. But, and that was after they were backfilled, so it'd be easy enough to go and re-inspect all the manholes and make sure everything's still flowing.
Yeah, I would like to see max flow go to the manholes while we're standing to make sure all
Yeah.
the manholes can absorb it in. I'll take a day and
Yeah.
we'll spend a day out there with you if we have to. you know,
Yeah,
but
no, that's no problem.
I don't wanna come back into the spring and have any little thing we might have overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As simple as a manhole
Good point.
cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, because
No,
what
good point,
are
Scott.
these manhole covers,
Yeah.
how many gallons do they hold, right? So if there's one little thing in a manhole that's bubbling up in a manhole, and that's what's been causing all the problem, it's never been the field, it's been a, thing we haven't seen. That's all, we should just double check everything,
mhm.
you know.
While it's
We
been.
can also, we can run a pressure test on the sewer force mains,
Yeah.
You know what I mean, to make sure that
If you
they're
just put everybody,
comfortable.
because you're also, there's litigations, we have
Yeah.
attorneys here, you've had issues with your installer.
Mhm.
I think you wanna make sure you got 100% of all the issues worked out, and I think the one thing we've just ignored, we thought it's fine, everything's making a tank, we're pumping out the tank is the door,
Mhm.
that's all.
All right, Scott.
Because I've been walking that place once a week, just looking for things that might be bubbling up, because in the summer, I did it, Bernie did it last week, just looking at the manholes, do I see a pond or a river of stuff and nasties, and I haven't seen anything, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm just,
And have you had any complaints since the last meeting?
no, I mean, since the summer's been over, it's,
You
you know,
haven't-
much like the audience, the times have changed out in that neck of the woods, so, you know, no, I have not gotten any.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
that
that's
might-
good too,
that might-
to just know that it's not still an issue.
So Scott,
Well, not, probably since September, I'd have to go back and look at
do you think there's any action needed on that question about the collection system, or?
No, I think if we're in agreement, I mean, you know, I
Okay.
just think, I'm holding the certificate of compliance, you know,
Right.
over the
Right.
field, and, you know, and so we can use the certificate of compliance as the final for that, you know, just to make sure everything's good. You know, somebody had suggested dye tests, I don't think we necessarily do a dye test at this point, but, you know, unless we saw something weird, you know,
Yeah.
by a dye test, we.
Probably wouldn't do you any good.
No.
Where would it emerge?
Yeah,
Wherever it would emerge, you would have seen it as water anyhow.
yes, it's, I noticed it, so I, you know, I just wanna button everything up because I like it to be a non-auto camp summer. I think always-
We wanna walk away from it knowing it's all set.
There's a
So
few
the last
of you
thing
that
we
it's
want
nice
is-
visiting, but we really don't want you
The
back.
last thing we want is July 3rd and the manhole cover bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we anticipate at least a report in the next month, but probably we'll see a request for the design review prior to that. Or then, one or the other, okay? Sound good? Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Keep it up. The next agenda item is 367 Grand Ave, local upgrade approval request, variance request to modify the previous board approval on 3/7. And you're saying that,
The applicant, Jacqueline, is calling the engineer after the continuance this afternoon, so,
okay,
yes, we're continuous.
all right.
And
Is
to do with the
there,
butter notification timing.
okay, is there a motion?
Motion to continue the next meeting?
10:17, okay, Kevin seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next one is 243 Edgewater Drive East, local upgrade approval, variance request, seeking waiver for setback to allow the soil absorption system setback to be reduced from the 10 feet requirement down to 6 feet. And is there someone here to present that? Mike?
Thank you.
For the record, if you would?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, for the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, I represent the applicant. We were retained to design a septic upgrade to a failing septic system. The leaching pit was in hydraulic failure. It's shown on the plan to be pumped and removed, as well as all ancillary material around the pit. We are able to use the tank because it's a 1,500 gallon tank. So what we've done is laid out a new SAS to come as close as practical to meeting all of the required setbacks in Title V. We just can't meet the property line setback of 10 feet, so we're asking for 6. There's no increase in bedrooms. There's no other place on the site that is feasible to put the SAS that could meet all the setbacks. We did research through the health department of abutting septic systems. By the way, your staff at the health department, I mean, our records since they were scanned are amazingly efficient to get us records compared to the way it used to be.
Great.
Morgan, Clyde, and Gus, all known records. There is only one, there is no septic system nearby or within 10 feet of this common property line. The septic system for the abutting lot to the rear is in front of that lot. So we asked for one specific setback variance.
And we have a butters notification card. We have-
I provided them.
Thank you. Okay.
I notified all abutters within 100 feet.
Terrific, thank you. George?
Do you have an observation report in Ridgefield?
No, but I can add one, or we could rely on the access cover, I don't know.
If you rely on the access cover, it needs to be brought within 3 inches of grade.
Okay. You
And
just
and
choose-
called out as an observation location.
Or a separate, just 4-inch PVC.
4-inch PVC pipe brought to the surface with a cap well within 3 inches of grade and well marked on an as-built.
I could do it either way, I don't know what you prefer. I know that the installers don't like to put those observation 4-inch in.
No,
It's a heck of a-
pardon?
Scott?
A lot easier to open up an 18-inch cover and look down at that septic system
Yeah.
than it is to look into a 4-inch, but take it big.
Right, but it just needs to be as per code 3 inches to grade, so you're not having to dig
I could
up.
change the profile to have
Okay.
just one cover, right? Would have to, or all?
Yep. I mean, you only have one line of them, so.
Right. I should make that revision and send it to the guys.
Okay. Could I ask you a question, our health agent? Was there a reason why this would come before us? I
Property line.
thought we had said that within 5 feet of a property line.
You gave me the street, but not in
Oh,
names
the
or in
street.
the butter.
Okay.
Okay,
Am I wrong?
You know,
You wanted
That
the
was my
butter for the
recollection,
hearing,
yes.
Okay.
because of the butter,
Yeah.
notification process.
yeah.
You could still give me these, and then I would have the 10-day notification of
Right.
refer to the health department. That's
Yeah,
entirely up to you.
no, I just,
Are
I
you trying to
forgot.
say you don't want to see me?
not that we don't want to see
Is that
you.
something I said?
It's delightful to have you before.
George, would you like us to put that on the next agenda for
No,
discussion?
no, that's fine, it sounds good, because
Yeah.
it gives the neighbor a chance to come to a board
Yep.
meeting and
Yeah,
give a public
Plus you got
statement.
the observation board in there.
Right, I get the observation.
If you didn't find something,
Right.
I will.
Gosh, you'd be insulted if I didn't look at it that close, right?
is there a motion?
A motion to approve the variances with the standard set of conditions for Edgewater Drive, I'm just getting the number now, 243 Edgewater Drive,
East.
provided that there be called out on the plan, the observation port, and the observation port within 3 inches of grade, either by pipe or raising it on the plan.
Okay.
Second.
Ben, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mike.
See you next time.
See you next time. Okay, the next agenda item is 30 Heritage Circle, updating the previous agenda item regarding the conditions at the property.
We didn't get any paperwork on that, right?
No, I don't see anything, right? Okay, Scott?
So Morgan's reached out a couple of times and haven't heard back from the owner to do the inspection. So, that's just impossible, but she said that's what she had said.
And we sure we have the right phone number or whatever?
Yeah, she's gotten hold of me before.
Okay.
Called on her twice for a re-inspection, didn't hear back, she's gonna follow up again tomorrow. She was taking, George would appreciate this, the lead determinator class last week. You wanna take a boring class, lead paint determinator.
Oh, yeah.
3 days of
That's a
lead
sleeper.
paint laws, she had to go through last week, so.
So,
Yeah, she had to touch base.
we modified fines. Is that on that property? Yeah, hang on, let's just go, I'm just going back to the minutes to just see.
Good idea. This is the, because I'm trying to remember the details on
I
that
know.
one.
This was, it had, originally had all the 50 cats.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
right, and they were down to needing to remove a couple more carpets and a couple more soft items in there. And, let's see.
There was one room that was filled at the bottom with,
Cat
feces.
feces, yep, in the minutes, and the board members were in agreement that this needs to be completed, and expectations were not adequately met. So, we reinforced the order that all rooms look like the living room, rugs need to be removed, fecal matter shoveled out of the hallway and the bathroom. If that is not done, the fines need to be enforced from September 2nd. Reinforce the order, and that can be that be done within 10 days. If not done by September 22nd, then the fine be imposed from September 2nd in the amount of $200 a day. So, we haven't re-inspected, so potentially we don't know. What do we wanna do on that motion? Because it said, reinforce the order, and that be done within 10 days. If not done by September 22nd, and we've made an attempt, do we know when she tried to reach out? They're supposed to reach back anyway, that things were done. So there you go. Puts us in a bind, doesn't it?
Well,
it makes it pretty easy, don't it?
yeah, you get two choices. You can implement a fine, as you said previously, or you could, again, the fines are still accumulating if he hasn't
Yeah.
reported it. So you could continue it, not do anything, and then put it to the next meeting, and then it's still accumulating if nothing got done. Or you can make action now. That's really kind of the two choices.
Well,
I'd say you gotta send them something now saying
Yeah.
that the board, in not getting anything from you for compliance, issues the following fine.
yep, because it's $200 a day from September 2nd, and we were pretty clear in our minutes about exactly what needed to
Yeah.
be done, so,
That's it, I mean,
that's it,
the fine gets issued, but the ticket or whatever.
yep,
And then they'll have a right to an appeal if they can prove for some reason that they had some hardship or didn't notify us because of whatever, can show receipts that it was done before that time.
we
All
can,
those things they could show in the
Yep.
course of a hearing, but until that's done, so you know, you give them the Miranda rights, the right to a hearing.
And probably include the number, the
Yeah.
dollar number as it stands.
As it stands at this
stands.
date, or
Yeah.
whatever you mail out.
Continuing to
Right.
accumulate at $200 a day.
That
So
was
we're
nine-
already at-
That was 9-2?
that was 9/2, we're already at 31 days.
Ugh, Just over $6,000, yeah.
So we don't need a motion, because it's
No,
in here.
it's already in there.
Just asking the agent to send a letter.
Yep, okay, alrighty then. Why don't can we take a vote to move some items around?
You want to mess around with the projector? Is that-
First do the minutes first, and then, that won't take us too long, but,
Any help?
No, I can start messing around with the projector.
Okay, I'll make a motion to bring the minutes forward.
okay,
On the
we'll do
agenda.
that one first, okay?
I feel like it should
And,
be,
is there a second?
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so next up is the minutes from the last meeting of September 12th. And we know what Heritage said in that section.
Hmm.
I didn't see anything that jumped out at me.
All right, on the housing for Old Barnstable Road, I'm just trying to make sure I was having a little trouble following the fines section. So when we met, we were in compliance. A fine was sent out on August 2nd, and corrections were made as of the 18th. The fines were established based on $200 a day from July 7th to August 18th. Further details include inspection on June 17th and orders issued on June 30th. As of currently, the fine remains active. When non-compliance was deemed corrected. So, we don't have a written, well, that's not even on here, but So we said they needed to have a written appeal for the fines, which they did not, right? So it was a continuance, which we'll have to ask Scott if there was,
Yes.
just back on 23 Old Barnstable Road,
Yes.
they were supposed to put in writing an appeal, the
Yeah.
fines. Did we get anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
That was where we reduced the fine?
Right, but we needed a request in writing
I will
for
follow
an
up.
appeal. Okay, so that's just in the minutes, but that didn't,
Well, if we didn't hear anything, the fine is the fine,
right,
and maybe that will draw a written appeal, so that they'll either pay the fine or appeal it.
yep.
So I say issue the fine and see what happens.
Well, it's not on our agenda, that's the problem. I don't know if we can vote on doing anything with it. We're reading the minutes is where it should have been on, I mean, I think it should have been on the agenda, but they didn't.
Wait, wasn't the fine already
The
issued?
fine was already issued,
But he was to appeal it,
If you wanted to.
if he
appeal it.
wanted to
but
appeal
he
it.
apparently
raise the
did
check.
want to appeal it.
Yeah.
So he didn't want, so then we expect a
Just
check.
remind him that,
The check
It's
is
due.
due.
In the absence of an appeal, you owe us X.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
and truthfully, we're not looking for an appeal from him anyway, because we already reduced it. Unless, and he seemed fine with it.
Well,
You-
there was a total of $8,400. Well, maybe it was okay.
Well,
Well, no,
that,
we reduced it to 1,000.
Yeah.
Where does that say that?
At the top of page 3.
Top of page 3.
And
Oh,
he's-
okay,
and he seemed fine with that, so just reminding him,
that,
then he owes us,
yeah.
okay?
it was what the town spent,
Mm-hmm.
so just reinforce that he owes that 1,000. You probably did send him something after the meeting, right?
I'll check. I'll check. We usually send an invoice out.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it's usually what Mallory's really good at, so without
Okay.
Mallory, sometimes it takes a little time to get that out.
okay,
right, okay.
thank you.
Boy, I thought I sent these timing updates,
Well,
Well,
it wasn't
okay,
much,
it's just,
just, yeah,
probably.
that was
Wild
quick.
card.
It'll take time.
Yeah.
I will motion to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2022.
All second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved.
It only
do you
took
wanna-
5 minutes.
I know, do you want to tackle the, which one do you want to tackle, the septic or
Yeah.
the?
Except to get a half hour.
what you
Well,
said?
I think we wanted to get the
John Stable?
stable
Minutes?
regs out of the way.
So
Okay.
can we recess while I set up the camera?
Sure, let's
Or
Sure.
the
recess,
projector?
or recess,
This-
Regress.
regress, we'll regress to recess,
So you're setting it up for the stable too?
yes,
Oh,
Well,
great.
the stable is what I was gonna set up for.
Oh,
yeah,
all right,
We don't-
great.
Do you have the track change version I sent you?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on it,
he's
John.
on it, John.
Yeah, he is
He
like-
does, he gets,
I believe I do. Well,
it's a good way to do it,
No,
too.
because we don't need the screen for the hearing, right?
No,
No,
but then
but
we're doing
the
the septic
septic.
regs too, so we could use it for that potentially.
Okay, I'm ready if,
Great, we
I
can,
can do both.
dual
of those.
duty here,
All
dual
right,
duty.
so we're in recess right now. So, do we need a motion? No, you-
No, second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, stable discussion. John Waterbury made some great edits here, so we've got them pulled up. And keep it in mind, we still, this is now, John, is this version number 7, just so we don't get confused?
Yeah, I
We
was
should
informed
change the
7.
version number 7 and the new date. If you could at the top, please, Ben, just because we gave John a very old version before and it needed too much work.
Let's just change it to today's date. is
Yep,
that okay?
that'd be great. 10-3-22.
And John, you haven't been through these before, so you just have to kind of just inhale.
So right there's the first one.
Yeah.
We started using animals, and then we switched to horses, so I thought,
Yes, yeah, there's more than just horses involved here. Yeah.
Okay,
so are you gonna put accept changes on that, or are you just gonna go along?
Yeah, I'll accept, I can accept that, sure.
I think at this point, yeah, you might as well make, since we're all here.
Okay, our domicile.
okay,
Sure.
yep, good work.
That's an easy one to accept.
And permittee, you added that in, John, we don't think we had one, correct, or did we?
So in the permit license fee, the permittee, that was something that was there.
Okay,
That's not me.
oh,
So
so we
that's a
can,
new definition that had been added before. I
okay,
just left and changed own to owns and leases.
So how about, well, it's highlighted here, ensures maintenance seems to imply like a manager, an employee,
where
right?
are you now?
Same one, we're
Owns, leases, and ensures maintenance.
How about
Oh,
and
and-
maintain?
Operates, owns, or leases, and
Maintains the stable.
ensures
And maintain.
maintenance. Huh?
Just
Maintains the same.
maintain.
Just maintain,
Yeah, that's good.
okay?
And do we want and or?
And, because otherwise it could be an employee, which,
Right. Okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
All right, and then,
All right.
we can get rid of the highlight too,
Can
I
you just go
suppose.
up and highlight and say, white?
I just tried that and it didn't.
No, didn't work?
Geez, that happens.
Yeah.
Might have to retype
No
it.
fill, is there a
Yeah,
thing
I'll work
that
on
says
it.
no fill?
Yeah, there is, I've done it a couple times.
Yeah, it's not working.
So,
Okay, permit license fee, so,
Seems to me we said that the Board of Health granted the permit twice there.
okay,
yeah, and we already had to.
Yeah,
yep, right.
Is that one?
It's always better to look at it later too, after you're not so close to it. Stay
Yeah.
so you can see. Following down zoning regulations in effect. Okay,
Which bylaw is, what bylaw is that referring to?
That's,
the building code,
No, the date of this bylaw. Was it will be a bylaw?
This will be a bylaw.
of this
is that right?
bylaw.
This would be a bylaw?
No.
No, this will be
No.
a
Regulation.
We're gonna ask to do the same
We're gonna
thing.
get rid of the bylaw.
Oh, that's right, we'll
Yeah.
be doing, we're getting permission to write the regulation.
Right,
Yes.
and so following Falmouth zoning regulations in effect as of the date of this regulation. Yep, so,
Hmm.
just change bylaw to regulation. I'm making an assumption, but I think it's a good one,
Mhm.
educated one,
Now I accept these, everyone okay with that?
yeah.
Yeah,
All stables must be maintained versus kept,
Okay,
and then kept in a clean and sanitary condition. Free from insect and rodent infestation.
So is there a building code that talks about stable construction? I mean, as far as ventilation, because adequate is kind of subjective.
don't we say built in, within the building code of the town of Falmouth?
Yes, but I don't know whether we have a regulation that would stipulate, for instance, like, the housing code says, 12% of your windows have to be, your windows have to be natural lit for 12% of your floor space, but I don't know whether there's similar things for a stable, because this says adequate light, which is subjective, and adequate to prevent noxious fumes, both of those are kind of subjective.
Mhm.
Who would make the decision? You walk in there and you see, you know,
I think adequate can do either anyway, regardless.
just with light to verify. And I think
I see
when
what
I
you're saying.
first started and looked at all those towns, that was some of the verbiage that we, gotten from all the drafted ones.
so with light necessary to verify stable?
To what?
Yeah, I would just
Well, you
delete
said-
the adequates as long as you line it up, but.
Yeah.
I think what we talked about previously was if we just use those subjective words, then the implication is that according to the judgment of the inspector. Right?
Yeah,
And then the inspector says that it's not sufficient, then,
You're right, whether there's adequate in here or not, it's still subjective.
right.
yeah,
The adequate doesn't do anything either way.
Right, and the
Right.
same after ventilation, it doesn't add anything. Ventilation
still-
to prevent.
You're not like saying it has to be this many candle.
Right,
Right,
or lumens
right,
or
right.
whatever.
yeah.
Micro Einsteins.
so you can take it off after ventilation too?
Unless Kevin feels strongly that it would be helpful to have it in there, I can delete it.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Both of them, get rid of both of them.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, but that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, you're right. So it's gotta either be
Sufficient.
adequate or sufficient, either of those words have to be
You
there.
think?
Yeah, because,
Sorry.
with ventilation, well, I don't know.
It's say enough light to verify stable
okay.
maintenance
We're,
requirements and.
Yeah,
Mm.
it doesn't really, either way, it's gonna be, the inspector's gonna have to make a subjective decision.
Yeah.
Before we
Yeah.
say sufficient, adequate, or
Alright.
Can we look at the one that starts with land? I have a comment there.
And on
whatever.
which?
This one down here, land on which,
Yeah.
okay?
So I think we're missing something now after those removals, because part of the point of the fence is we wanna make sure it contains the animals, they can't escape. And I don't think it says that anymore. We say prevent injury to animals or damage to property of butters or the general public, but we don't say sufficient to prevent escape or to,
Right,
right? That has to be in there.
Well, afterwards it says all paddocks shall be enclosed by fencing sufficient restraint and height to restrain animals.
Okay, so maybe that gets to my knowledge of definitions. A paddock, I thought that's,
Yeah.
isn't that where they spend the night?
Yeah.
So here we're talking about the
no, I
pasture.
thought the paddock was
A paddock.
outside,
Paddock is the
Pasture,
area
say.
where they get to walk.
yeah,
I don't think there's a big difference.
outside.
What are you saying, John?
I don't think there's a big difference between a paddock and a pasture.
That might be
Well, I think the
It is?
paddock
Paddock
is
is
what's
inside.
enclosed, makes it enclosed.
Paddock is little, and pasture is the whole.
Yeah, so I
The
don't have to
paddock
get-
is the fenced-in area that they can roam, right?
So we have, wait, what?
Thought it was the fenced-in area that they can roam is the paddock.
No, I think that's the pasture.
Hang on, we'll go to the definitions, but we don't have one for paddock.
I'm not good about it.
Well, we
Well, it
can fix it by
includes, the
just saying.
pasture includes barns, paddocks, turnouts, and fences. So the paddock is part of the pasture.
That is correct,
That's correct?
yeah.
Oh, good. See the definition on the first page? It
Okay.
includes paddock as part of the definition of a pasture.
How about all land on which animals are maintained shall be fenced? In a manner.
Yeah,
Oh,
So we don't like pastured anymore?
I don't know, I'm just trying to be all
Well, we have a
inclusive.
definition of pasture, don't we?
right, and it includes the paddocks, it includes fences and turnouts, so it's hard to put that in the,
Okay.
And by dumping that one sentence and just adding of sufficient strength and height, we do what that deleted sentence did.
I see what you're saying.
Yep,
So, what is it, the second
Sorry.
sentence, all,
So we should say all pastures, right?
yes,
A more general term, I think, is what folks are saying, John.
yes.
Yes, okay.
So this would be pastures. Because the pastures includes all those.
Includes all
Yes,
those.
that's it.
Because
That's
in
it.
the regulation, we don't really care if the horse wanders from barn to
But you
pasture. We
can't
just
if-
don't want the barn to
I know.
paddock.
but if,
We care about
if,
whether they wander into
if
the.
if the
Right.
fence is part of the pasture, how can you say that we have to fence in? Say, do you know what I mean? You can't use fence in that term then if you're gonna use pasture, because
The pasture enclosure, let's call it that,
you
needs to
can say
be,
that, the pasture enclosure.
because we have enclosure defined as any fencing, corral, paddock area.
See how pasture includes a paddock and fence, so it's hard to say, you have to fence in pastures, fence is part of the pasture. I don't know, that's where I'm
The
struggling.
pastures
So it's
enclosure
almost like this.
shall be of sufficient strength and height. Pasture
Yeah,
enclosures.
pasture
Okay,
enclosures,
we're going back.
that sounds good, shall be enclosed,
Pasture.
Pasture enclosures shall be of
But
sufficient
the
strength and
enclosure is
height.
not of sufficient strength and height. It's the fence that's of sufficient strength and height.
Be like, I'm gonna just accept these real quick.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Okay. So all pasture enclosures shall be enclosed, shall be encircled.
Just be enclosed by fencing of sufficient height and strength and height
Yeah.
to restrain animals and be maintained at all times.
I still think it's a paddock.
Well, you want any area to be able to restrain the animal.
Why isn't it just pastures? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, but it's any area that they're gonna be in,
Right,
and pasture could be wide open land.
but it still needs a fence around it, which is, because that's the problem we have, our present problem.
Well,
There's a big pasture, open land, you don't want them wandering out into the road or onto somebody else's property.
yeah. No, I definitely think the fence needs to be there, it's just weird that that is part of the definition, you know what I mean?
So we've defined pasture as all of
Yeah,
the space.
pretty much any way you'd have the horse.
Yeah, and we've defined enclosure as all of the structures, everything, all the structures, the buildings and the fences.
So maybe we need to relook at the pasture definition. It says, any enclosure serving purposes of grazing or exercise and shall include barns, paddocks, turnouts, and fences. Any enclosure serving purposes.
Why isn't stables in that thing, barns is in there?
Single
Yeah,
is any
right.
structure or building where any single or multiple equine animals.
And must be fenced. At the end of the definition of pasture. Paddocks, turnouts shall include one and must all be fenced.
Well, you wouldn't put that in the definition of pasture, that's what you're.
Well, then get rid of the fence completely.
Believe it
I
or
agree
not,
with
there's a website, paddock versus pasture,
Yeah,
and pen versus field, terms to understand.
so what did it say?
This is where we need our ag.
Yeah, a paddock, sorry, okay. An enclosed area that is normally used for exercising or pasturing horses or animals, an enclosed area to the racetrack where they get saddled, an enclosed area to the racetrack where horses are paraded and mounted, an enclosed field,
That's what the
That's a-
definition of pasture?
a paddock.
Oh,
Yeah, and the pasture, hang on, So pasture is a grass that is intentionally grown for feeding, a grass that can be fed, a plot of land that is maintained. Okay, so it is what we thought it was. It's the grass and it's the field. That's basically what we thought it was.
Except we included barns, paddocks.
Right,
Someone else.
and it's not really it, right?
Yeah, so we gotta change that. It's just the grassy area.
Yeah. So, and then maybe we need to add the definition of paddock on here, and that will solve our problem.
So pasture
Yeah.
ends at exercises.
Yeah.
So that's where that definition ends. Then,
Well, and feeding, it's where they,
Grazing and or exercising, how's that?
grazing
Yeah.
is feeding.
Yeah.
Woods, the paddock. So,
That's pasture, actually.
That's pasture, now we'll go
Any
to paddock and
enclosure
add that
serving
in,
purpose of
how's that?
Grazing and exercising.
All right, so this is on the to-do
Well-
list for next time.
hang on
Well,
a
he's got it
second.
right there.
Hang on, so a pasture is a plot of land maintained for grazing. So exercising can be done in the paddock. So then when they're able to, when they're done with their work, they get set out to the pasture to do what they want. Okay. What I'm gathering.
All I can picture is
So it
sound
ends at
music.
grazing.
It's just like,
Yes, it ends in grazing.
Okay, that's good, it makes sense, that seems like a
all right, and then we'll add
pretty
in,
intuitive definition for grazing.
Yeah.
and then we'll add in paddock.
so, yeah.
Yeah. That was cute.
What was that?
Oh, he had an ant showing up. All right, do you have a quick definition of paddock that we can put in there as a draft anyway?
Sorry. Small-scale livestock keepers and horse enthusiasts define paddock as a field of any size that is used, is being used or about to be used for farming, a small field that is left to keep horses,
There we
a
go.
fenced area where
That's more-
cars or horses are kept or shown before the race. Well, it's
Well, if we
everything,
just-
but how about this, it's everything
just
except for
Google-
the grazing area.
Yeah, or just Google, you did paddock versus that, maybe we just Google paddock and see
Well,
what it comes up with.
If we just did pasture grazing, okay, we've already got paddock up in enclosure. Enclosure includes fencing, corral, paddock area, pen, and the like used to contain the animal.
All right, and this says the definition is a paddock is a small field or enclosure where horses are kept or exercised.
Right, so I guess we just get rid of,
I don't think we have to
It
define.
comes from the old
Yeah,
English
yeah.
word
Yeah.
"katararek" something,
It's
which
almost-
means enclosure.
it's almost like,
Actually, originally it meant a fence, but the meaning transferred from fence itself to the area that was fenced in.
it's almost like we need a definition for, I think this is good, actually.
I
Enclosure.
think the enclosure is good, because it
Yeah.
includes any fencing, corral, paddock area, pen, or the like used to
Yeah,
contain an
that's
animal.
fine.
It's there.
Do we need
Pasture.
poultry? We don't need poultry on
I
there.
don't think so. Stop. It's only because I have that,
I'm gonna accept
I've
that.
never poultry.
I'm gonna accept that.
Yeah, no poultry.
Will you accept the comment from the audience?
Yes, we will, ma'am. For the record, just state your name.
Carol Solis, Woodneck Road. Poultry are not animals, they're fowl, so in real life, you'd probably need to put poultry in a separate.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we have there would be a separate poultry, right? if I
No,
understand
there
that.
isn't.
But George
Which
has
is
a very
not
so
gonna be
inclined.
one. George
All right.
drafted that one a while ago and it got
It's,
vetoed.
And
It's
still
six-
bear the scars.
It's 6:30, Diane,
Yeah.
and you wanna,
Yeah, let me see if we're, is there any place we can stop or is that?
That's a good one, because we've taken enclosure,
Yep,
Yeah.
scratch poultry out of it. Pastures, any enclosure serving purpose for grazing.
okay, so next,
Enclosure is anything there, now I will say, There's only one other thing we need to do, that the enclosure could be, I mean, the past,
Right, so I've added here, all pastures and enclosures shall be surrounded by,
Yes.
that's about surrounded,
There,
so
Yeah,
we don't have
surrounded by.
enclosed.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. And then we can stop that and start next time on page 3.
Okay, I'll accept changes here and I'll bookmark this spot right here for
Thank
next,
you.
for next time we
Perfect.
take up this. Perfect.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
where are we going now?
So now we're going back to our agenda.
Yeah. This has got the newest, the most recent emailed version of that regulation.
Okay,
Because what I'm, accepted changes, it left a couple things out of the draft, not
Okay.
text, but the numbers.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about
So
the
he can put it up on
mandatory
there.
recycling.
yeah,
And
so that's what we're doing next,
the most recent,
right?
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
922 version, that's gonna have
Okay.
changes still on it from more and so forth. So you
All
have to
right,
accept
so
them.
can we have a motion to continue discussion next time on the stable?
Motion to continue to the next meeting for the stable regulations.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're going back to our original agenda that has solid waste regulation hearing. The board is conducting a hearing, will consider on the following proposed regulation, rules and regulations for permitting and operation of municipal and commercial solid waste recycling collection and mandatory recycling requirements. Huh? And Alan, we lost him.
He's over there, too, John.
So you said I accept all changes?
That's how it was sent to me when I hit accept all. See the 1.0 on the side, 2.0? For
Yeah.
some reason it went disappear on my version that I posted. But I just wanted to make sure you guys get it was cleanest copy that they're happy with it.
Alan, do you want to join us? We got an extra chair and we'll push down and.
Can Amy join us as well with the,
Sure. Why don't we throw some extra chairs around then?
Oh, you, sir? Let me go down.
You gotta go the other way, just so that he can face the audience in case there's questions.
Wherever you going. Okay. How are you?
Do you want-
Can we squeeze in or sit here, or how'd you like it?
I was in close contact.
Yeah.
If you want to stay away from me.
Yeah, we don't want to sit next to too close to them.
I can sit.
Switch your way. Yeah, thank you, that'd be great.
This is the two shovels.
Yeah.
So these are, this version has the track changes from when town council looked at it.
Okay.
Well, I can.
Has it been on the web, on the town's website, so people can see it?
Yeah, just go to the top then. This version has the track, I took the track changes off the one we put on there, up top. And this one's gonna be, this one's gonna be the number system. When I hit track changes and accept changes, it took some of the 1.0, 2.0, didn't take any text off of the 1.0, so I'm gonna show you. So scroll down.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can track, you can accept those changes. I just wanna make sure that Alan, that's the one that you guys have worked on, that's the most recent version, that's the one that discussed it.
Okay.
We can go to 7.0 and check that.
Yeah.
So you just go down to 7.0 and we'll, there's some wording that was recently added, we'll check to see if it's there.
Okay.
Okay.
So, for those of you joining us, we thank you for coming. We are opening our public hearing on I want to call it the right thing, hang on, lost it, where'd it go? The rules and regulations for mandatory recycling and permitting and operation of municipal and commercial solid waste recycling collection. And joining board members tonight, we have Alan Robinson and Amy Roth. Alan's the chair and vice chair of the solid waste committee. We've been working with them for quite a while to develop this most recent draft, and that's what we'll call that because we have not accepted anything at this point, and we're here to get a feel from all of you on maybe what changes you might propose in looking at this. So we are recording for FCTV. Did I say that right? It's just 4 initials, right? And is there anybody else? Is that Gilda back?
Yeah, okay.
Gilda
Sorry,
for the enterprise
recording, yeah.
recording. Thank you. Okay. How do we want to begin? I don't know if anybody in the audience need a copy of the proposed, okay? So Scott, you've got a few.
So it's going.
And it's going to
the
be up
numbers-
here.
When I printed this out a few minutes ago,
The numbers didn't come out, but the content's the same. And so what we've done with some of these regulations, so we can, huh?
I do have a couple accident. I made 10, 15 copies.
Oh, gosh, all right, here's another one.
Here you go.
Anybody else? Thank you, and we'll be putting it up on here. What we found is when we're doing some of these regulations for all of us to see them, it's extremely helpful. Thank you. To kind of see it at the same time we're making the changes. So it takes a little bit longer, but Ben's been great, Ben Moy, about doing that for us, and so we can actually see what it looks like at the same time. So, where do we want to begin? Do you want to just do a summary to
Yeah, would
start?
you like, I could read the purpose
Okay,
and then read the overview.
thank you, that'd be great.
Great. My name is Alan Robinson, I'm Chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And we very much appreciate that we've worked together with the Board of Health very closely, very productively to get to this point. So
You guys did a lot of work before you even got to us, so
we
thank you
did,
very much,
and
publicly,
we-
thank you.
we much appreciate the contributions you all made because they were substantial. The purpose. The purpose of these rules and regulations is to describe the requirements for mandatory recycling and to establish rules and regulations for the permitting and operation of municipal and commercial solid waste recycling collection for the town of Falmouth. The goal of these regulations is to protect public health and the environment by ensuring that all businesses and occupants of residential dwellings segregate recyclables for curbside collection or by other means as identified by the Department of Public Works, and that all permitted haulers collecting solid waste, recyclables, and/or compostables adhere to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the Mass DEP, waste bans, and uniformly comply with waste hauling permit requirements established by the town of Falmouth and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you. So, we've kind of gone through section by section in the past when we've done this, and so, it may behoove us to kind of do that and see if anyone has any comments on any of the sections. I don't know if you've had a chance to, read through them, but we can take it from there. Yes, sir, and for the record, anyone speaking can just identify yourself for the record, thank you.
My name's Carl Cavosa.
Carl?
So, in the purpose, it says, you're basically doing exactly what the DEP is doing, right?
Well, we, essentially, they have certain, and then we can supersede them. We can't do less than what the DEP does with any regulation, right? But the Board of Health has authority to add on something. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, but what you're saying here in this outline is exactly what the DEP already does, right?
Well-
The Department of Transportation, I mean,
And we just add for the town of Falmouth.
so the Department of Environmental Protection, when we
Yep.
dump, already goes through the trash and checks our trucks for
Right.
recyclables. And then if we're in violation, they give us a violation notice, which we can pass on to whichever customer violated. So,
So basically, it's augmenting, oh, Nell, if you wanna take that?
The state establishes the rule, statewide rules and regulations and so forth. But it's up to the towns to actually implement this work with the haulers and with the residents of the town. So the state doesn't establish the rules and regulations for the residents, for example, for the residents of the town of Falmouth. These rules and regulations establish the requirements for the residents in accordance with the requirements of the state.
so this is not for the hauler, this is for the residents?
It is both there's elements here for the residents, there's elements here for commercial generators, which is a broad spectrum of generators. And it is for rules and regulations for haulers as well, as in a separate section of the rules and regulations.
That's the section I'm interested in.
Okay.
Because the DEP has specific regulations
Right,
and.
so we can only supersede what the DEP says. We can't do less than DEP or any other state regulation, but we can add on things that are specific just for Falmouth. Does
And
that make sense? They can be,
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It can be
because
a
we don't
higher
dump
li-
recyclables in Falmouth.
well, and so let's, wanna
So
wait,
that's very
bear with us
important.
until
Yeah.
we get to that section.
But your distinction of what you're saying is, it makes no sense, because it's hard for you to, how could you tell me I couldn't take XYZ recyclable if I'm not even dumping the recyclables here? If I'm dumping the recyclables in, Rochester, and this is how they want them, you'd in essence be making it worse, harder. You see what I'm saying?
I know what you're
So
saying.
I wanna make sure that you understand, this is already governed by the DEP.
Right, so
For
that's why we're
haulers.
here. So as we go through it, there's certain things that are kind of maybe in addition to what the state requires.
And of course,
So,
the haulers are required to get the permit, I guess in every town, but I can't speak to every town. I can speak for Falmouth, that they're required to get a permit from the town of Falmouth and the town of Falmouth Board of Health.
Right. And it's one of the only things in the community where the hauler has to get a permit just to drive through the community. In every town, so we have a license in every town across the Cape, just to drive the trucks through. So it's very,
so we know nothing is easy, right?
right, we just don't wanna
All right.
make it any harder than it already is.
All right, so that's why we're here, and we'd be glad to listen to your comments through the various sections that we go through. Basically, we were given authority by the town meeting to be able to make these regulations for the town. And who it applies to, and minimum requirements, okay, utilizing DEP. All right. So these are some of the definitions that we're been working through. George?
I think it might be just helpful to go through, because I doubt there's citizens here who are concerned about their responsibilities. Seems like we should maybe focus on those who are collecting commercial solid waste and recyclable materials. And I agree, Carl, most of these are really just reinforcements of what the state says. Like it just says, for anybody collecting commercial solid waste recyclables in the town of Falmouth shall remove the same to a state licensed disposal recycling facility. What this gives is, if we found that somebody was not doing that, then it gives an enforcement document for the local to make that hauler do what they're supposed to do. And who would know more about what happens at the local level than the local municipality? So they had somebody who said, I'm not taking those recyclables there, I'm gonna just trash them somewhere else, not a licensed facility. It would give the local board of health the authority to find them. So, I mean, a lot of this is just what you said, it's really reinforces what the state already has. It outlines some responsibilities if somebody's collecting commercial trash as far as making available recyclable routes for the trash, for those commercial accounts they have, things like that, which are already part of the state mandates.
So, and just, and again, in many of our regulations, we have, Title V regulations for septic, but then we have Falmouth regulations that supersede anything. And same with smoking, I'm trying to think of a few others that, it has additional things. Just out of curiosity, for those of you that are here tonight, is anyone else a hauler that, okay, citizens, okay. Thank you, great, okay. And we'll just go through our definitions, but if you've got copies, certainly if there's anything in there that, Ben?
Yeah, I think, I was gonna reiterate what George says, I don't know if we should, I don't think we need to read it. You know.
No, just kind of go through the sections, and
Okay, just make sure I'm
if
doing
anyone
this.
picks up that they'd like to discuss a certain section.
Yeah.
I think Alan was gonna read a summary too, right?
I could read the overview, which is what Scott had put together and was published in the notice in the paper, as
Okay.
sort of reiterate, if you'd like, it's up to you all.
Would it be helpful if I just asked you the questions where I thought there was an issue?
Well, and we just
Seeing
want
I'm
to
the
go
only
through
one with a,
the haulers, but we want to make sure that we address the public questions as well. So if we can just bear with us and just kind of go through the sections, then we can,
Can I move this up? Can I move this up, this definition? It's out of alphabetical order. That's all right. Probably wouldn't bother it 99 out of 100 people.
problematic.
Okay, all
All right.
right.
And actually, our new town council has joined us. Maura O'Keefe,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you.
very much. We're glad you could make it.
Yes, unfortunately, I can only stay for a limited amount of time,
Yep.
but I did want to pop in to see how it's going.
Thank
See
you.
if you have any
And maybe,
questions.
thank you, we appreciate that. And maybe what we'll do is go through Carl's section
Right.
for the haulers, so if he has questions specifically for you, that'd be helpful. And
should I
then,
brought my lawyer?
okay, so let's,
Don't worry.
can we go to the,
So section
yeah.
7
So then, can we go to,
addresses haulers.
section 7? I was on numbered here for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason you're cut off.
Just got cut off, but,
Yeah, mandatory recycling services.
okay, mandatory recycling services, for us it's on page 4. So Carl, you have questions in those areas?
So I do.
Okay,
So you tie this into the rules and regulations. So the mandatory recycling and established minimum requirements for the systematic collection of solid waste and recyclables to promote waste reduction in compliance with Mass DEP waste bans. The rules and regulations established herein apply to generators and permitted haulers of solid waste and recycling in town of Falmouth. So realistically, it's very difficult, and I think the town's finding that out now with your own recycling collection, right? It's very difficult for us to pick up a dumpster, dump it behind you, put it on the ground, and know that that's all recycling. And we have a camera, right? Oh, the camera. Camera catches everything when it's falling, so we're not sure if sometimes things are in bags, and I think the town's seeing that now. It's very difficult to make sure that that recycling container just gets recycled. So when you tie that into my responsibility, I get very squeamish because Scott's gonna stand there when I dump the truck and he's gonna say, you've got non-recyclable or recyclables in your trash, either way, right? Somehow this is my responsibility now, and for me to, when you take 127, 150 stops a day, and you dump the container, when you go to dump at the end of the day, it's impossible to know that somebody put a TV in a load, and where did that come from? I don't know, 180 people, and we wrestle with the DEP on this regulation quite a bit. When we dump trash mostly, we'll have loads of trash that have cardboard in them, right? And some of the cardboard will be waxed coated cardboard, or it was cardboard that has meat liquid on it. Well, the generator knows that that cardboard's not acceptable, but the DEP inspector doesn't know that. He looks at the cardboard and says, that's cardboard, that's gotta go in the, well, we've gone through this, and we get a violation, and we take that violation, and we gotta figure out which customer it was, and we write them a letter. I don't wanna do your job. My job's enough. What I'd love to see happen is, you have some folks in the solid waste committee, go to where the biggest users of recyclables are, or biggest waste generators, and make sure they're recycling. He's got the ability to walk into the hospital, any restaurant, any place that's serving food, right, and say, hey, I want to look at your waste and recycling program. But to put it on, and not just me, any hauler, I'm here because I do a lot of work in the town of Falmouth, you know, and recycling's a profit center for us. We want people to sign up for recycling. And I'll do the best I can to try and, but if I come to your beauty salon and I say to you, hey, you need a waste can, I'm gonna give you a 2-yard waste can, and you have to do some recycling. Well, Carl, I don't have enough recycling here to recycle. I got 2 or 3 people working, and they may bring some lunch stuff. I just don't have enough. I can't force that person to pay to add recycling to their program. They can opt to bring it home or whatever they want. I'd rather see where the community is taking it on themselves. And, you know, you have not that Scott needs anything else to do, but certainly maybe it's the Solid Waste Advisory Committee goes and visits some of these facilities to say, you know, what are you doing with recycling? You did this with composting a few years ago. And we can't put food waste in the trash stream, in the waste stream anymore. So we went out, we bought all kinds of composting bins, and we're gonna do composting. The 2 biggest users of food in our community put in garbage disposals. They didn't pull the waste out of they pulled the waste out of the waste stream, they didn't put it in the dumpster. They just put it in the garbage disposal. So there was no generator, you know, no generation in the waste stream, but it went in something that it probably shouldn't have gone in. So that's my first issue.
Does anybody want to respond to that?
I can make a quick response. I think I heard 2 different concerns. The first concern was being held responsible for people doing recycling and doing it properly. And the second concern I heard was being in a position where you have to force someone to recycle who feels like they don't generate enough to make that sensible for them. So speaking to your first concern about being held responsible, part of what these regulations do, and that's why they're both mandatory recycling regulations and permitted hauler regulations, whereas before we only had the permitted hauler part of it. So what these do is they do put that responsibility very clearly on the generators of waste in a detailed, systematic way, that you cannot knowingly put recyclables into trash into your recycling, and that you are responsible for doing it properly. So that's a new piece that didn't exist before. And the language as it applies to the hauler is that the hauler cannot knowingly collect materials that are in violation. So it doesn't say that you have to open every bin, that you have to be intimately familiar with the contents of a recycling container. But if you are acutely aware of somebody who is not in compliance, then the requirement is that you refuse to pick it up and give them a sticker and tell them that until they get this squared away, you can't pick up for them. And it also does have some provisions about just providing lists of acceptable waste types for people. So you're giving them a little bit of education, and then you're holding their feet to the fire if you see.
So I'm just curious, is there another example of where the town puts it on a private company to do the policing of a town regulation? Because you're asking
We're the
me.
Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and Mamie and I are
How
Solid
about
Waste
the
Advisory
smoking
Committee.
regulations? I mean,
Right there.
So what do you do there, George? I'm just curious.
You find them if they sell to
Yep.
an underage person,
Yep.
or if they didn't check, they do sting operations all the
And
time,
flavored
flavored vapes.
vapes.
But you're, that's a town regulation, that's like me putting in a septic system.
Well,
George,
no,
without
that's a state regulation.
That's a
Right, but
state,
that's-
but we have town regulations that in
Supersede it.
addition to some of the state
Which
to
allow
the state
station
regulations.
So the rule is, the liquor store can't sell cigarettes to the minor.
Mhm,
And you're enforcing that with the liquor store.
correct.
Okay. What you guys are trying to do right now is, you're trying to enforce this rule on the person who paid that kid who's going to get the cigarettes. I have nothing to do with this stuff. I'm the limo driver. I show up at your business, I pick up your mom, I bring her to the airport. I pick up your trash, and I bring it to the dump. I'm just doing what I'm told to do.
You pick up somebody doing a totally illegal activity in your car and you know it, who's gonna be responsible for that? Where, afterward, who's they gonna go after that?
I guess
You
that,
pick up a
You're
guy
dropping
and you
them
know
off.
he's entering your car unlicensed, a firearm, he tells you, I'm gonna just go rob a bank, could you take me to the bank, please? You don't think the...
George, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but if you get in my car and you have a weapon, and you're gonna go do some crime, and I don't know about it, I'm in the truck and I'm
That's right,
driving.
and that's what it says.
Knowingly.
Knowingly.
So this gets into this issue of, all's now you have to do, solid waste, Alan come to me and said, hey, that guy has recyclables in his dumpster. Now you're forcing me to go in between me and my customer. All's I'm asking you to do is, take me out of it. You fight with the customer. Just go tell them they need to make the change. I mean, our job's hard enough trying to tell customers what is recyclable and not recyclable. And now I get into a yell, all you're gonna do is you're gonna force that customer, George, to go to a different hauler. That's all they're gonna do, just somebody who's not enforcing that. And then you guys will be chasing someone else. All I'm trying to say is, it would be a lot better for him to go. And that's, Scott, again, I don't mean to put more work on you, but somebody, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, send somebody, hey, now you could say to me, Carl, give us a list of guys. Happy, here's a list of people who we don't think are doing the right things. Go straighten them out. But I fight with them already. I don't want to shut them off. Now you're impacting my business. That doesn't seem fair. And that's all I'm asking is,
Thank you very much.
keep us out of it.
Reasonable care in waste collection, reasonable.
Well, it's required that he send a list, permitted hauls, collectible, are not required. Must provide the names and addresses of their solid waste only commercial customers to the town. So Carl, when you get that thing, when you dump that load, that person up at that station sees that you dumped an inappropriate load, who do they go after?
They actually don't have, what they do, they allow you a certain percentage. So let's say we dump a load at CMAS, which, just for the record, so everybody knows, all the waste we dump is being recycled, even the trash. It's being recycled at
Trash
CMAS.
to energy.
Right, it's being turned into energy, it's not being landfilled. And that's another part of this that gives me a lot of angst. Because people think that, oh, you're dumping all this trash in the landfill. No, I'm not, you are, but I'm not. You guys bring your trash to Warren, I don't. I bring my trash, commercial waste in the town of Falmouth, goes to CMAS and gets turned into electricity. So that's a positive thing, because it's very difficult to recycle 100% of everything. So these types of things go to CMAS and make electricity. The metal, ferrous and non-ferrous, gets pulled out, boiler aggregate. So that's that. So your question, George, was, when we dump a load, there's an inspector, they look at the load, and they determine what percentage, if they think that we've gone over the percentage of recyclables in an allowable load. Now, we might have 80 yards to load, we might have 80 yards compacted in a load that comes out, and they look at the percentage. If there is, they take the ticket from the driver. They log in the ticket number, they call the scale house. When he leaves, he gets a letter from the DEP that says, there's an inordinate amount of, you violate this regulation, inordinate amount of recyclables in that load. Please contact the generator and let them know that we found cardboard, whatever it is.
So the state has moved you into the position that you're telling us you don't want us to put you in.
but the state hasn't, the state, nowhere in the state's regulation do they threaten to take my license or, have us in front of a board of health or anything like that. And they don't have the public saying, hey, wait a minute, with pitchforks and fire, none of that happens. It's just, hey, we're giving you a letter. We want you to know that this is a problem. You need to go to the generators. Now, we take those letters. It's very, very difficult for us to understand who the exact generator is. So we do try to go to our customers and say, hey, look, you're generating. But George, here's a perfect example. We have, without saying the customer, we have 2 6-yard containers that we dump every single day. The company's a local Cape company. They make chowder. Those 2 6-yard containers are kept in a walk-in freezer. When the truck comes, they open the freezer doors, we take the containers out, dump them. If they don't keep them in the freezer, the neighbors will be crazy because it stinks. We dump them, we bring them to CMAS. As soon as we dump them, we get a letter. You need to recycle this as food waste. Where can I bring it? I can't bring it anywhere. There's no place that'll take it. We've researched bringing it to Rochester, Carver. We can't bring it anywhere. Nobody will take it because the odor is so great. So the DEP is saying, look, we're issuing these to you. We know that your hands are tied, but here's the rule. What do you want me to do? At least I know at CMAS they're being disposed of responsibly. They're being burned. They're not going to go into his backyard or somebody's backyard where they're trying to be composted and they're ruining a subdivision or a residential property. We tried to compost them.
Those may all be those are challenges that you face, but these rules and regulations, that's not the issue that's being addressed in these rules and regulations. Whether you've got odoriferous material that no one wants, that's not what these rules and regulations are for. It's related to recycling.
So
I
with
mean,
the
we go through
seashells,
Yeah.
for instance, right? How does, that's a recyclable, that's supposed to be recycled. So what is your position on that? Because here's the problem, Alan, and this is why, some of you folks that have been here, George, and certainly Mr. Waterbury, this board's gonna change over time. So what you write in this document, somebody else is going to enforce. And that's the problem. That's why I want the thing crystal clear, where, you could say to me, hey, you don't have to worry about that stuff. I'm worried about it.
All right, well, tell us what lines, what,
I just told you, when you
Which-
hold the
where-
whole hauler responsible for hauling recyclables that a generator, any generator generates, you guys need to
so
be
it says you
enforcing.
have to have a program, all right? You have to provide, the bundled service must be provided, all right?
So, again,
Must itemize the invoice, I'm just going through the
yes, but
different
let's stop right
components.
there. So the bundled program.
Yeah,
You own a hair salon.
okay, do we need to have, I'm sorry, I can't hear both. So, you guys, you wanna say something? Okay.
So, and I would say this to the board, George, you own a barber shop. You say to me, Carl, I need a trash bin. George, what are you throwing out? I'm gonna throw it hair. Maybe some lunches. Okay. We'll give you a 2-yarder, we'll pick it up once a month. We don't have to worry about odor. Okay. He's not buying a bundled service. He doesn't want a bundled service. He doesn't have enough recyclables to, and would you buy that bundled service? You'd
But
say to me,
that's
no.
not, I don't think that goes back to the haulers as a responsibility. Is that what?
You
I
just
mean,
said,
for-
a
well, for-
hauler has to bundle the service, right?
Well, you have to provide us that service. It doesn't say you have to make them do it.
You said, I have to provide a bundled service.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is, you're forcing me to do what none of these other national companies are gonna do. So he's gonna say to me, how come Allied Waste doesn't do that? How come Waste Management doesn't do that? How come
Okay.
Republic Services
So-
doesn't do it? And
so-
you guys could say that you're gonna make them do it, but It's impossible to police.
So let's look at the verbiage on the mandatory recycling and see where it is that needs to be looked at. For residential generators, bundled service must be provided with solid waste and recycling collection at a rate that reflects the cost of providing both services. Solid waste and recycling services must be provided by the same permitted hauler unless otherwise pre-approved. So, on page 4. For us, it's on page 4.
Can we go with sections, Diana?
Mandatory recycling services, sorry, Ben.
7.1.
What is it?
7.1.
Yeah, the printout copy somehow.
We don't have
Yeah,
sections.
we don't have that.
Mandatory
Yeah.
recycling services, okay.
Okay, so Ben's
Number
good.
eight.
Match up with you.
Right,
So
so
she's
go through so if we're looking at this verbiage, under A,
Don't even get to A, start with the first.
okay,
Permitted haulers must provide a comprehensive, integrated program of collection that includes recycling as described below. So, we provide recycling services,
Yep.
right? So, integrated means together, right? Is that what it means?
in this capacity,
So,
It's
but there are,
described below.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
different provisions for residential
For
generators
residential and
and
commercial.
commercial.
Right. I don't care about
So-
residential, that's a
so-
big problem.
It may be worth noting that down below, it does say that commercial, sorry, let me look at it. It says that you, as the hauler, could contract with a separate hauler who would handle the recyclables.
But the
So if you
generator-
don't want to do both.
If you have, again, if you have a barber shop, think about what I'm trying to say to you. If you have a barber shop, and I force you to do recycling, and you don't have any recycling,
but you're not forcing anybody to
That
do it.
doesn't, that's not what we're
It
saying.
That's not what it's saying.
if you're
It says you
bundling.
have to offer the service, okay? It doesn't say, that I'm reading anyway, it doesn't say that you have to make them
Then
do
take
it.
out the word integrated.
The generator, if you go to the second line in B,
Well,
unless,
tell us what, because,
Oh.
in B, yeah, we
B.
do have B.
Commercial, which is commercial.
Okay.
Yeah,
the second line says, unless the generator can provide proof, this is your client, this is the barber shop, can provide proof to the permit hauler, you, that separate recycling services are provided to by another permit hauler or via one of the methods listed in the recycling service exemption form. A barber shop, I think, could say, you know what, I got a few cans of soda, I got a little bit of paper, that's what's recyclable, and you know what, I take it home with me.
That's not a good.
So
That's
I put it in my street side, curbside, or if I live in a different town, I deal with it however you deal with it in a different town. But for that barber shop, yeah, the barber shop's, you know,
That's not what this says,
Generated
and that's what I
recycling.
guess I'm trying to say to you is, please make this so the next board, when they bring me away in handcuffs, doesn't have this to hit me over the head with. And I think what this really says, Alan, when you look at it, permitted haulers may charge separately for the collection of recyclables for commercial generators. Commercial generators may use, actually, it's the sentence above that, I'm sorry. The generator can, all right, for commercial generators,
which line, Carl?
B.
a B, the first,
Oh, right in the beginning,
the
okay.
very first. For commercial generators, the permitted hauler must provide both solid waste and recyclable collection, which we provide it, but when you say the word provide, we offer it. If Amy decides she doesn't want it for the shoe store, she only wants cardboard collection, let's say. She doesn't want single stream, she just wants cardboard. Is that okay with me? Am I okay?
Go to the second line.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless.
The unless.
Unless the generator can provide proof to the permitted hauler that separate recycling services are provided by another permitted hauler. So now you want, or via one of the methods listed in the recycling service exemption
So
form.
if
So
they
there's
have an
another form.
exemption.
So they have to apply for an exemption.
Right, right, so if they're a minimalist generator or with no recyclables, then they can be exempt from the requirement. But if they do generate a reasonable amount of recycling, then they're required to generate it by state law, or required to recycle it by state law.
So your barber shop would probably be exempt because it's clear that all he has is a couple cans he brings in with soda. Unless he's got a big soda machine there or something.
Or always cardboard boxes that his
Cardboard
products arrive
boxes.
in, I don't know.
But if I'm hearing you right, Carl, that he's concerned that that's his responsibility to make sure these people buy this service.
Well, it
In other
sounds
words.
like it is, because now,
It's-
unless they have an exemption
It's-
for it.
I hear you, but let's just see, huh, George?
It's his responsibility to make sure he has it.
Correct.
So if
That's
he
what I-
says you have a commercial account, he's a barber shop, he says, look, I don't generate this stuff, you want me to give it, write it down on your slip. He says he doesn't generate it, and he's a barber shop, and anybody in their right mind would say, yeah, there's probably a few cardboard boxes come in with the toilet paper each month, or there's a couple of things that, you know, coffee cups and stuff that are here, but that's about it. So he would be exempt from that. But anybody who generates reasonable amounts or enough to be recycled, that's the law, they have to recycle it. And you're collecting this trash, you have to either say, look, I can offer you that service, or you have to show me you get it from somewhere else, because you keep throwing these cardboard boxes in here, I'm gonna get in trouble. I can't take them from you. I hate to say that's between you and your customer, you hate to tick off your customers, but that's really, like in our smoking regs, how many of those people say, I'm gonna piss off my customers
Yeah.
here? They won't come back if I gotta check their card every time they come in. I'm sorry, you have to verify that they're in compliance with the law. And I don't even imagine how you have to deal with certain customers, because 1 in 10 of my public that comes to me is ripping mad, and you gotta talk them off the ledge or push them, one or the other. But, you know, I think it's reasonable. You go to any commercial account you have, and you start seeing every time you're flipping that thing, there's tons of cardboard, you gotta say to the guy, you gotta recycle this stuff.
George, your volume of acceptable recyclables and my volume of acceptable recyclables are completely different than Alan's and the next board. And so what I'm trying to do, if this was to go into law, right, in this regulation, then you wouldn't have one commercial customer in the town of Falmouth, or residential customer, maybe there's a few, but you saw what happened with the residential recycling. None of them would be in compliance.
So, let me-
Because hold on, Aaron, I just want to, and you're making this impossible for the hauler. All I'm asking you to do is say, listen, if you're a commercial generator of recycling, show him that you have a recycling contract. Simple. You generate commercial recycling. How do I know? Because you're buying it. Show him you have a commercial recycling contract. Keep me out of it. I don't want to force my customers to do stuff that you want them to do. Because I'm going to tell you something. What you're doing, to me, it is completely wrong in our community. Commercial waste is recycled at CMAS. So if you're going to go break this guy's stones that he's throwing a case of empty water bottles in his MSW, that's a problem if you're throwing it in a residential container because it's getting buried and born. When I collect it, it's being turned into energy. It's not, it's being recycled.
Except, residents generate a good deal of recyclable material, correct? There's a program for that. It gets separated and goes to a materials recycling facility and it gets recycled.
Hold on.
When
When it goes to the material
Hang on,
recycling
Carl,
facility.
just let him
But he
finish,
missed-
let him
he
finish
misspoke.
though, I know, but let him finish, and then you can rebuttal it.
some businesses actually generate a good deal of recyclable material too. Just think of cardboard boxes. You can burn cardboard boxes, but you know what? It's a better and higher use to reuse that paper material.
So now,
When
the
you
big
can sell-
thing, just so we're on the same page and you understand, if you're in a business that generates cardboard, you're gonna recycle the cardboard. Okay, that's a no-brainer, because the price for MSW, disposal and the price to cardboard, I can show you that, hey, if you got a 4-yard rubbish container and I gave you a 6-yard cardboard container, buddy, you're saving money. But if I give you a 6-yard trash container, it's gonna cost you money. So it behooves you to take as much of that cardboard out. But one thing I want you to be very clear about, and you need to make sure that people know this. You said that when the town of Falmouth picks up its recycling and it gets dropped off at the recycling center, it's recycled. No, it's not, hold on, it's not recycled. It's then transported to another facility. At that facility, it's then separated where probably 30 to 40% of it goes back into the trash and gets hauled to CMAS. I want to just explain to you that all the trash that I picked up goes directly to CMAS, never gets touched by a machine, never gets touched by another thing to get transported somewhere else. It gets picked up, put in the incinerator, shredded, put in the incinerator. All the metals are pulled out, ferrous and non-ferrous, and it made steam, which turns a turbine and makes electricity. Not the recyclables. The recyclables that we pull out, we do very similarly to what your recyclables are. So when you start dinging us on stuff that's in the trash, I'm gonna tell you, that guy with the hair salon that throws a few water bottles in, his water bottles are better off in my trash than they are in yours. They're gonna get recycled immediately. When they go into your trash, they're gonna get kicked around, moved, transported, and then off to market. So there's never been a distinction, and I've said, the town of Falmouth should go to Mass Maritime and have the economics or the environmental students figure out what it takes to have 2 trucks collect the trash in our community, what level of recycling, and you guys are dealing with it now, percentage of it is trash. Is it better just to make electricity with it? And I don't know that, but
So do all the commercial haulers go to CMAS?
you can't go to board.
So, so all of them have to go to CMAS?
Well, they go to CMS if they go to another facility, they don't have to go to CMS.
Okay. Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
go to any
CMS
facility.
would be the closest, but others may.
There's no
transport
other
someplace
facility.
else. Or they might wanna ship it, yeah, they could ship it to North Carolina if they wanted to.
So it's a
How?
licensed material
You can't.
recovery facility, and that's all we've required, right? That's what that is.
Well, and we can't assume that Falmouth residential trash is gonna go to Warren forever. At some point, that's gonna be capped, correct?
Yep.
And then maybe it'll go back to CMAS. So we can't write a regulation that says, well, we don't care if it gets recycled because it'll be turned into energy. We have to require recycling. It's what
Your
the state
regulation is
says.
good, okay, it's good. Where I have a lot of angst with it is when you start to tell the commercial hauler that he has to then tell the customer what they're gonna do. There's an economic piece to recycling that works and doesn't work. You know, there are people that will tell you, composting should work. It's the heaviest thing we have in the waste stream. If we could pull that out of our waste stream, our disposal bills should go down. So the economics of it should work. There's a lot of other problems with composting. Trucks for collection, bins have to be cleaned, water. There's the odor when you're composting, I tried to permit a composting facility in Falmouth. It's very difficult to do. People don't want it. They think odor, seagulls, blah, blah, blah. So what you're doing in trying to get residential waste and recycling, I applaud it. It's a great idea because if it doesn't get recycled residentially, it's going to the town of Warren landfill.
So if we go back to the verbiage on there, I just want to kind of pull us back to what you're recommending come out, if I'm hearing it right, not to say that's what we're doing, I just want to be clear. Bundled service, you have to be able to provide that, right? If that first line.
So that
says-
first line says, permitted haulers must provide a comprehensive,
Yep,
inclusive program of collection, instead of integrated, which makes it sound like it has to be together, or a certain, I have to provide it, I do provide it, I
you
offer
provide
it,
it.
I do
Okay,
offer
so you
it.
offer it. The line that's if I'm understanding correctly, this is a problem for you. Solid waste and recycling services must be provided by the same permitted hauler unless otherwise pre-approved by the Board of Health. And so, you're saying that I can't make them use me, right? That's what you're saying?
Right.
But you're not, your issue is not with section A, it's with B, correct? You said not the residential part, but the commercial part.
Take
That's
out
where
the-
concern is.
Right, if
Okay.
you take out the word provide and put the word offer,
Must
must
both.
offer both solid waste and recyclable
So we
collection.
cannot do that. We actually did have shall offer. Are you back at the intro sentence where?
No, I'm at
No,
B.
B.
For commercial generators, the permitted hauler must provide both solid waste and recyclable collection. And what I'm saying is, must offer both solid waste and recyclable. So we offer it to you, because then, here's the other part, Alan, I want you
Well, and
to,
that's where the line comes in, that you're saying that they have to provide to you that they have another means of getting rid of it.
Right.
And
If
that's
I
what
offer it to them-
You offer it, but you don't wanna have to say, okay, you have to take this service, is what
right,
you're
or
saying.
you gotta show me that you have it somewhere else, I'm not the
Right.
police. Alan, and one of the things I want you to understand is, like liquor stores, right? We provide them with a cardboard recycling. They don't have, like, I always would, hey, you must have glass and tin. We don't have glass and tin and that stuff coming back, because if we break a bottle, we'll have glass. But we shouldn't have a ton of glass coming out of a liquor store. Honestly, it should be cardboard, okay? So we offer them, what type of recycling do you want to do? Do you want to do single stream? Here's the price. Do you want to do cardboard? Here's the price. Well, what do you suggest? Let's look at your single stream container, we'll give them a single stream container, we'll look at it. Single stream's priced here, cardboard's priced here. I look in your container, it's 98% cardboard, but you should go with cardboard. That's what it is. The rest of it's gonna go to CMAS, it's not like I'm bringing it to Warren. So it's not like recycling or landfill, that's not it, man. It's clean recycling, energy. Not recycling of the landfill, clean recycling, waste to energy.
All right, Mary?
Hi, Mary Ryder, Town of Falmouth Recycling Coordinator. I just want to point out that the Massachusetts Waste Ban does stipulate that recyclables or anything on the waste ban list, including recyclables, are not allowed to be incinerated. So combustion is not an allowed recycling method. So I mean, just to clear that up.
Thank you. I'm gonna suggest that.
It
we
is for
kind of-
MSW.
Huh?
It is a approved method for MSW.
For solid waste.
Right.
For solid
Right.
waste. So I'm gonna.
And when you take, I'm gonna, I don't wanna, when you take recycling like you have it, and I think Mary will tell you is, how much of that recycling that you collected, I saw in the newspaper, how much of that was MSW?
Well, okay, let me speak to that. We were actually in the recyclables, and you saw the photograph that was in the Enterprise, and in the article, and identified that there was a plastic toy, and there was some other items. And there are certainly plastic bags. But I personally was relatively pleased that we didn't see more plastic bags, we didn't see more toys, we didn't see more like water glasses and so forth in recycling, that actually the people in the town of Falmouth are doing a pretty good job. It can be better for their recyclables, it could be better. And yes, there were non-recyclables, there were recyclables in the trash. But if you the residual from CMAS, after the trash is incinerated and generates electricity, the residuals actually go to the Bourne landfill. And so if there's glass in that trash, glass bottles that were in that trash, it does end up being a landfill because it doesn't get incinerated, it doesn't disappear into the air, it doesn't generate electricity.
You've been to CMAS, right? So there's two products that come out of the back end of CMAS. One of them is called boiler aggregate, the other one's called fly ash. The fly ash goes to Bourne and landfill, right? That's not where the glass is. The glass is in the boiler aggregate. The boiler aggregate has the metal, ferrous and non-ferrous metal, which gets pulled out. It's very interesting, coins, that kind of stuff gets pulled out of the boiler aggregate. The boiler aggregate's actually used as a vent layer at places like the Bourne landfill and other landfills
Yes.
that are being closed.
Yes, it's actually, yeah, the ash there, you're right.
And
There's
that's
actually
where
a
the
benefit,
glass-
there is, the glass, and at the recycling facility, the market for glass is such that there's no manufacturers of new bottles in Massachusetts, for example. So the glass that gets recycled actually goes to the Bourne landfill too, as clean cover. It's a, in essence, a beneficial use.
And so, Alan, that's the
But it
part.
does take up landfill space.
So that's the part where, as a hauler, right, I come into your facility and you have a shoe store. And you say, hey, my wife likes to drink wine. She drinks 2 bottles a day. Do I give you a single stream container or do I give you a cardboard container? Because in my mind, I'm saying 90% of what he's gonna throw is cardboard. I'm giving you the cardboard container and those 2 wine bottles are going to Bourne as a vent layer. Doesn't make sense to send 3 trucks there. Because now you get into a whole different
Which,
problem.
again, we're sort of getting beyond the rules and regulations,
Yeah.
but again, that shoe store, in your particular case, where his wife is there drinking 2 bottles of wine, they can look into exemption, they can look at alternatives, they can take it home.
So, can I make a recommendation that at this point, just because I want to get beyond this B, that we take this back, get it on another agenda, come up with some, kind of think it through and figure out if there's any alternative, et cetera, to what verbiage is
And we'll
currently
look very
there.
closely with what the state has specified
Right.
in their rules and regulations that we're matching, because in a number of these cases, the specific wording, and it may, I'll have to go back and check, like, to provide.
Yep.
That specific wording may very well have come from the state, and we've been told, there we go, we've been told by the state, you've got to, your language has to be,
Yeah, this
The
whole
language has to be
section is
consistent.
verbatim.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so when you say unless the generator can provide proof, so is that in the state language at all?
yes, we're not,
Look,
yeah,
Section
So-
7.1, the subsections A and B are verbatim
yeah.
from
So,
the state.
We're gonna have to go
management.
argue that with the state then, Carl.
I've never seen any section in the state where it says that I have to provide both, or I have to bundle both services to the generator. That's not in the state
In the
regulation.
best
Research that and
management-
get
it's
it
in the
back
best
to him.
management practices for developing rules and regulations for
Yeah.
But
permanent
is it
haulers.
a
But that's
best
developing-
management practice, or is it part of the state requirement? That's,
The state requires the use of this language per their best management practices document.
best practices to me have always been, this is the best practice. It
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
make
Right.
it the rule.
Right.
Exactly.
We've been told
Yep,
this is the required language.
okay. Can we just
Can we
check
pull up
into
the
that
rule?
for
The
B?
DEP has a rule.
Can we just check into that and then we can revisit this another time?
Yeah, because of the
Yeah.
time and all that.
I wanna try to
let's-
get to make sure we address
I think
the residential issues as well, but, yeah. And we can get this on another agenda to work through this specifically. Is there anything else, Carl, from a hauler's
Yeah,
perspective? that-
permitted haulers must provide the names and addresses of the solid waste only commercial customers to the town or city that can follow up to ensure those customers are complying with the waste ban. As soon as I hand you my customer list,
Yeah,
it becomes public knowledge under the Freedom of Information Act. You're gonna have to come to my office with a gun to get that. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
You told us a little while ago
Yeah,
that you
you
wanted
did want us
Scott
to-
to do the
I-
enforcement for you, and
I
that's
will-
what it says its way.
I will absolutely allow Scott to do the enforcement for you, but I'm not gonna give you my customer list.
Well,
If he
how's
wants
he
to
gonna
come,
enforce if you don't tell him who's got the problem?
Scott, you're welcome to come to my office any day you'd like and look at it. When I hand you that customer list,
Becomes
him as the town of Falmouth Board of Health agent, it
Mhm.
becomes public knowledge,
Foyable.
right? Am I wrong, George?
No, it's foyable. It
Right,
says-
he can come to my office and I'll sit and chat with him and he can read whatever he wants on my desk. I'm not giving you my customer, that doesn't make any sense. This is my livelihood and my living. I'm gonna tell you, in the town of Falmouth, I'll be honest with you, we collect trash from Mattapoisett to Orleans, okay? You don't have a lot of generators in the town of Falmouth, I'm happy to say, that just flaunt the regulations that are like, we're not doing it. You don't have that. You do have a lot of conscious, like on the town of Falmouth, if you walk behind some of these restaurants and stuff, you'll notice they don't have single stream containers. There's one, because we went to a group of businesses and we were able to say, we did the same thing in Woods Hole, and I'm very proud of this. We went to them and said, look, you don't have room for recycling containers. I'm gonna give you a trash container close. I'm gonna put a recycling container over there and lock it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 businesses share that recycling container, they each pay $15, and they all have a key, and they all use that. So for Scott to go over there and say, hey, there's no recycling behind La Cucina. Well, yeah, because he's sharing it with 3 other businesses because they don't have the room. So, you know, I have no problem discussing that with him. I don't want to hand over my customer list.
Do most of your customers have a dumpster that says Cabosa on it?
Yes,
Okay, so it is visually apparent if they are your customer, like if you go
absolutely,
by.
absolutely. But you wouldn't, Amy, if you go to a customer, right, you might, like in Woods Hole specifically, if you go to a customer in Woods Hole, you're gonna say, hey, they only have a trash dumpster. But if you go, where is it? It's at the Woods Hole Oceanographic parking lot. There's 2 big recycling right in the middle of a parking lot at Hui. And they're for the businesses in Woods Hole because they don't have the room for single stream. So they all bring them over there and
No, I've talked to people there, and it's a very well thought through system. And so if someone goes behind La Cucina and doesn't see a thing, and they knock on the door of La Cucina and say,
They're gonna say, where are you
right,
recycling?
and they'll say, it's over there.
that's correct, right. But
It's
see,
it's a very simple solution.
absolutely.
All right. So we gotta look at the verbiage, see what is state mandated, see what, we hear you. We hear you. We're not doing any voting on any of that. okay?
My big issue is, you know, I listen to what Alan's saying, right? And God bless him, and I hope he outlives me by 150 years. You know, in 10 years or 15, my business has been through a bunch of, not these 2 gentlemen on the board, but certainly some of the other folks on the board, right? It used to be my good friend David Kerrigan sitting here before, and now Scott's here. These rules and regulations are gonna outlive us, right? And so the next person's gonna go, hey, that barber shop doesn't have a, well, I went through this
We
with
hear you,
George.
we hear you, we
So
hear you.
I just wanna make sure it's
We
right.
hear you.
If I could just follow up on one, so you suggested that if the larger competitors had this contract, they wouldn't follow the rules, and therefore they would have a competitive edge over you as the smaller business. And I'm just wondering how do we enforce that? How do we know that any hauler, whoever it is gonna follow the rules, same as any other?
They couldn't get a permit in this town, right, if they didn't comply, just like Carl.
So
Yeah.
These ways, you'll find out soon enough that the rules aren't being followed, right? Stuff will be showing up that's not right, and, I mean, people complain. I mean, there's all kinds of, Scott goes out to check it out.
If they want to do business in the next year, they're, you know, for any business in town, you know, liquor store business, they've got to comply with the permit requirements.
So
And
any business in our community, right? When you think about the largest generators who are the largest generators of recycling in our
You
community?
tell us.
Stop and Shop's a good one, Scott, but I'd say the hospital generates quite a bit, okay? You know, he's probably up there a couple times a month doing inspections, as is the hospital. The hospital's done a great job with their recycling program, they really have. They had no recycling until we went there and we changed the loading dock. And we allowed them enough room to put in a big compactor, recycle cardboard, and have some room for some recycling out of the hospital. So I think a lot of the businesses are doing a good job. I think it'd be very easy for,
And it's great to have haulers like you and I presume some of the other haulers who are responsible and say, hey, let's work together, you and your customer, work together to make it work And that's what we're asking.
There's a financial piece there, Alan, that doesn't make sense sometimes, and that's where a business has to make a financial decision, what's best for that business. And what I've said to you here, and I'll stick to my guns, is there are some customers that could do some recycling with wine bottles and glass. If it's going to Bourne on your truck or my truck, at least at my truck, and burning the label off at CMAS and using it for energy. And your truck, it's just going into landfill. And that's what I'm trying to say to you is, what are you trying to do? You're forcing this guy to just do what? So that's why I'm,
The state's already told him he's supposed to, he has to recycle.
Well, it is getting recycled.
It's already state law that that customer is obligated, required to recycle. We're just establishing some of the local rules, and how that all is carried out. So, we're not creating a new requirement in terms of.
You are,
recycle.
because
We're not,
the
whether
state
they
does
recycle-
not say anywhere that I have to
I
bundle
think-
both. Nowhere
I'm
does
not-
it say that.
Well,
But you said it was best practices. It's not a DEP regulation that I have to bundle both practices. That is absolutely not. It may say that I have to offer, but it doesn't say I have to bundle them both. That's what you're saying.
All right, so we're gonna
Offer
be
and
looking
bundle.
into it,
the two words
and
go together.
Both.
we'll make sure that, for the next discussion date, that you're aware. Scott will make sure that you know when we're next discussing it, all right?
And I don't want to be difficult. I do want you guys to have
Huh?
something that works well for the
You wanna make
community
it the
and
17th?
works well for, other haulers that may be working in the community,
Just a quick question, when you're choosing cardboard versus single stream, if they put their cardboard in the single stream, would there be a downside? Is the cardboard recycled differently or
Single
not?
stream's more expensive.
It's just a money thing, but the cardboard would still get managed the same way?
I don't think so. I think when you put Mary may know, when you put your single stream together, you now take, what I've been told is, when you take that cardboard and you put it into a single stream container, a larger percentage of that cardboard becomes unusable. Now, I defer to the expert on that. What I've been told is when you smash the cardboard and the glass together, some of that glass gets embedded into the cardboard, and some of that cardboard becomes unusable.
Okay, yeah, I was asking specifically for your program.
Is that
When you
true?
offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the highest value is when it's clean.
Separate.
So what we typically do is we'll go in and we offer, in our package, we offer 3 separate things. We offer single stream, you can do single stream recycling. What do you have? You've got a restaurant, you need wine bottles, you generate a lot of bottles. Cardboard only, and MSW, or any variation. If you want all 3, we'll give you all 3. If you want just MSW in single stream, we'll do that. If you want MSW in cardboard, we'll do that. So it's really up to what, you really gotta let the customer figure out where their highest recyclables are and let them do that.
Mary?
I'd have a real quick question for Carl. Is it not an option to, or is it an option to offer, say, the beauty salon or the shoe store that only says they have cardboard? Can you not offer them, instead of a dumpster measured in yards, can you not say, well, let me give you a 48
Yes,
of those in the corner?
96 gallon toter, yeah.
Or even smaller, a 35
Yep.
if that's what they want, and price that accordingly, and then you take their soda cans and
All of that.
stuff.
We have from 45, 65, and 95 gallon toters, recycling MSW, all the way up to,
So even for the
Compact.
business, even for the
Even for a
businesses, they can
business.
mix and match.
Yep.
Okay, so-
we don't have, honestly, we don't have a lot of businesses. We do have some that do compost. I don't know that we have a lot of businesses that do toters. A few.
In Falmouth.
We have a few.
In the essence of time, I feel like I wanted to be able to offer, at least those that are here for the residential, some questions or statements that you'd like to make. I guess you-
Maybe Carl can straighten it out too.
And for the.
Alfred Welch,
Thank you, Alfred.
35 Greengate Road. In Greengate, as most of you know, there are apartments there, and there's like 96. So there's a lot of garbage, there's a lot of recycle. Well, previous to the new containers coming, Greengate didn't want those containers all over the place. So they contacted Mr. Cavosa and had another dumpster. Now, this is part of Greengate, because I'm in Greengate and then it's Riddle Hill. But the same thing goes on up there. So now we have a dumpster for garbage and a dumpster for recycle. And it seemed to be working out. Then a week later, I go to empty my recycle in the bin, and it says cardboard only. So I had to take the cardboard out, and then I threw the rest in the garbage. So right as of now, everything except cardboard is thrown into the garbage.
So
Doesn't make sense.
Let me ask you a question. Did they swap the container out? Did they ask to swap the container?
I don't know, what do you mean by swap?
Well, we have single stream containers and we have cardboard only containers. And so let's say the facilities manager there called and said, hey, a recycling container needs to be painted, or it smells, or it needs to be swapped out. Then if they did that, we would have swapped the container, and the driver may not have paid attention to, that's a single stream container, not a cardboard container.
What is a single stream?
Well, it
Single
originally,
stream's when you can put cardboard, plastic, glass, all your recyclables into one container. That's probably what you had before.
yeah, before we used to have just garbage, and every unit would save, every 2 weeks, they put their recycles out on the road, either in paper bags or the little rubbish barrels or something, and the truck would come up and empty them all in the truck. Then when these carts, the new carts came out, they didn't want these carts all in place. There's hills that people have to come out of their apartment. They had no place to put them, and there would have to be 96 of them between the two apartments, because that's how many there are there. So they brought in this container from you, and it said, it was fine. It was being filled up. And after a week, all of a sudden, it said cardboard only on it.
Is it a sticker that we put on it, or a sticker that your facility?
I have a picture.
Oh, perfect, show me the picture.
While he's getting the
Does it say
picture up,
Cavosa on
Mary,
the sticker?
you had a
Yes.
comment?
So I would just clarify that Greengate apartments are not eligible for municipal curbside. But like many multifamily housing complexes, they were taking advantage of the curbside program for many years in the past. And when the town distributed the new carts, they were withheld from the multifamily because they weren't eligible. So that's where the change came with the recycling.
I love that color gray. If you call tomorrow morning,
I'm not the manager.
Yeah, but
I'm a tenant there.
if you call this lovely lady Nina tomorrow,
Nina? Oh,
she'll
you
get
got
you the
Nina?
correct, she'll get you the correct stickers, and we'll make sure they say single stream on them.
Oh, great. Do you have a card or
So
anything?
it sounds like that was a mistake.
The
Yeah,
problem,
sort
the
of an
problem,
error.
well, I think the problem that,
I told her that?
and you'll see, I think she'll see it that the residential is, when people say recycling, it's either recycling or it's not recycling. For us, there's different things that can be recycled, so.
Is there anything else you have?
No, I just,
concerns about?
I said, okay.
Alan?
I just express appreciation, thank you for coming,
Oh,
and
you're
I was
welcome.
happy to get such an immediate fix.
Response.
Stickers are easy, right?
Oh my gosh, thank you.
So you guys are we done, or should I
Well, I
stay?
think we're done for now. Are we done for
I
now?
thought you said we're
Close
done.
the hearing.
Huh?
You want to close the hearing? and-
Well, I'm wondering if, unless anyone else has any other areas of concern, then we can figure out when we're gonna revisit the hearing with additional research.
So to summarize, the real focus here is on mandatory recycling services B, which appears to put a lot of the onus of the program onto the
hauler.
hauler.
Yep.
And that we're going to have somebody look into whether must provide or must offer can be used in those sentences.
Yep,
And that's where we're at with
and as
that
well
particular
as
comment.
the providing names and addresses, if that's a requirement. So we're looking.
I'm happy to work with the Board of Health, but I just don't want to hand my customer list over to.
I don't know whether, so our next meeting would be October 17th. I don't know, Alan, whether you guys would be ready for that, or we should move it to 2 weeks after that.
I will be out of town.
Okay, so let's look at, the next date would be, October 31st. Are we gonna have it on Halloween? No.
No.
Okay, so we can't have it on Halloween, so the next date is November 7th.
And Solid Waste Advisory Committee, well, I guess we can do it. Solid Waste Advisory Committee is on the Board of Selectmen, will be on the Board of Selectmen's agenda to make our annual presentation. But that doesn't start till 7, and we won't be at 7 anyway.
We can
So
put
if
you
we
on first.
do it at
We
5:30.
can put you on first at 5:30.
Yeah.
Can you make 5:30?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. All right, so November 7th at 5:30, we'll revisit this section. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Huh?
So, Scott, I have the notes here,
11/7.
and I'm gonna email it to you, because my computer doesn't like this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl, for
Yeah.
that.
Yes,
John.
Carl,
I'll
one
email
thing.
to Scott.
Good to meet you.
So
Okay. and he
if
can
we
forward.
use our smoking program as an analogous program, the county goes through and does inspections for us.
Yep.
And they simply relay back if they have found a violation. And then it's up to the Board of Health to call that institution in and say, we've got a problem. And I guess what we're sort of, my understanding of what we would like you to do, as you're collecting from your customers, rather than confronting them, you say, okay, I've got customer A who I know has been a constant problem. Pass that on to us, and then we would do what we do with the smoking regs, is either the Solid Waste Committee or the Board of Health would hold a hearing and say to that person, you know, you've got to get your act together for recycling. So rather than putting the burden on you to be the bad guy, you simply are passing on to us, I've noticed as I pick up stuff, there's a problem at place A. Could you guys follow up on that?
And John, I think that's a wonderful idea, and I think that that system is in place already at CMAS. You know, they already issue us a violation and bring it back to the customer. What you have to establish then is what percentage of recyclables in the waste is acceptable to you.
Constitutes,
Right, George? So like the guy that throws a can on top of his trash, is he going to,
Get a
is he gonna serve
violation
20
notice.
years, or is he okay, because it's not that much
I mean, I don't
recycling?
think the idea is for us to go after them with a sledgehammer.
Well, the DEP has a specific, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, I should have brought one of the letters. The DEP has a specific percentage of allowable
Contaminants.
contaminants, is that what they call it? Okay, so Amy has the word contaminants in the recyclables, or recyclables in the trash. So that's where you guys would establish, like, okay, anybody that has more than 10% by volume or weight, right, George? So you'd have
well,
a
you
metric.
get the ticket,
Yeah.
you get
If
the
you get the
ticket.
ticket, yeah.
That's enough evidence for the board to act if it gets that ticket.
But George, for that, I want you to understand, so when we get that ticket, okay, I'm getting that ticket with 180 stops.
Right.
They could be Falmouth, Mashpee, Bourne, Sandwich, CMAS. I get the ticket at CMAS. Your load has an unacceptable quantity of recyclables or contaminant.
Right.
Now, I have to figure out how much of that load came from where. Where did I get a bulk of this cardboard? I might have picked up 2 cans at a restaurant where this, a lot of it comes from the people that are working there. The hospitals had this problem quite a bit. We had to put in Spanish on the containers, which one was cardboard in Spanish, which one was trash in Spanish. So and then that solved a lot of the contamination problem. But when I get there, that truck, so now, what I'm more concerned about is, if we do inspection, okay, Scott lifts up the container, and he looks in there, if he sees 2 pieces of cardboard, you as a board have to decide what's acceptable. Is
How do you respond
10%?
to that ticket?
How do I respond to the
Yeah, the
ticket?
one that you got.
What we try to do is we ask the driver to give us, on that start, we know where he went, because we have it on a computer readout, it clicks off everything he did. And we say to him, which one of these stops do you think had the most amount? Well, we know that this business here, I've seen a lot of cardboard in here, or I've seen a lot of wine bottles, I can hear the wine bottles. Or I can, so we narrow it down to that. Then what we do is we give it to the sales team and we say, you need to go see Scott. He's throwing a lot of wine bottles in his 4-yard trash container and it's getting flagged at CMAS. You know, sell him a single stream container. But you guys see what's happening here now is, I'm going now telling him, hey, the DEP doesn't like what you're doing, give me some more money. And he's going, what? Wait a minute, you can't come to me with the gun in the violation ticket and then have your hand out. That's not right, man. You need to go with the gun in the violation ticket, and he needs to call me or one of my competitors to say, hey, I need to recycle my wine bottles, what can you do for me? It's not fair, the customer doesn't feel good when I go there and say, oh, the DEP, well, I didn't see the DEP, well, I did when I dumped the thing. We told the DEP guy to go shit in his hat. No, he gave me this letter. The letter's a photocopied letter that's on its 7,987 photocopy. And I hand it to the customer and say, look, man, you gotta do some recycling.
So maybe what we're saying, Carl, is to take you out of the loop to the customer.
That's what I want.
And
Yeah, but the
you
board
have.
can't enforce unless it gets some evidence. It's not gonna,
But-
you have a hearing before the Board of Health to decide whether we.
So here's the easy thing, what I would ask you to do, here, and this is very simple. The DEP's issuing these violations, right? If you pick up in the town of Falmouth and you get a violation, Scott wants a copy. Who are they? I could list Mashpee County, it's out of his jurisdiction. This place, this place, this place, this place, this place. Here you go, here's our violation. Now, he could take those and say, okay, in a quarter, this guy came up 4 times in a quarter. Everybody else comes up once. You don't wanna go to people and say, hey, you put wine bottles, boom, I had my Christmas party and we'll never do that again. So it has to be, it has to be something that's realistic, that makes an impact, right? So that barber shop that has a party, you're not chasing that guy, but he shows up 4 times in a row on a list, or he shows up 4 times in a quarter, and Scott says, hey, I gotta go visit this guy.
But that's the same thing we've had with smoke. There were violations that we knew were always gonna come from the same place. And those were the places. And so I think what we would sort of like is, as you're picking up, I mean, your drivers are gonna notice. And
You're gonna hear the wine bottles.
Oh,
they're gonna
that's-
have a cumulative experience of, okay, this guy has been a problem on multiple occasions. And then you can pass that on to the solid waste committee or to us, and we can follow up on it.
You guys understand the issue with me going to my customers saying, you have a violation, but I can fix, it's the same as, when you pass the Title V regulations. I'm a Title V inspector. Scott will tell you, I can inspect septic systems, but who the hell's gonna have me put in a septic system when I say to you, oh, Alan, your septic system didn't pass, but oh, by the way, here's an estimate to fix it. We don't do that. It just doesn't make sense with our customers, so we try to stay away from that, and, I'd rather serve my customers and, say, hey, the DP said you have to do this, here's a bill.
Quick question before we close, quick question. Did you just suggest that we this group added the regulations that a requirement that copies of Mass DEP violation letters that you receive when you dump come to this body.
Yeah, I think that may be a good fix for you, like, hey, I'm required under my license to supply you with copies of those letters.
Right.
So now, I could forward the letter to Scott, or once a week, or once a month, give him the letters, and then he could say to me, hey, you got, you know, you get the letters almost daily. We got 8 trucks dumping. We're probably dumping, how many loads a day? 2 trucks, 2 loads each truck.
It doesn't
Would it
help
be
us,
fair?
however, unless
15
we
loads a
know
day we're dumping.
know
It
who
just-
who's
it
on
is,
that
yes.
letter.
Would
Right.
it be
So-
fair to
So-
ask for an annotated version of that, so that,
Annotated.
so that you mark
Annotated the
up,
10 people he picked up from on that ticket.
yes.
Well,
Well,
okay, so
then we know
wait a
the customer
second, so
list.
George, so if he, when I get that letter, I picked up 160 stops. What I would say to you is, the best estimate of what the driver thinks is in violation, he could put down on that.
Right.
That doesn't mean that he can go there and write a violation. That means this is where we think you should look for those recyclables. Only because it's not fair, Alan, if I pick yours up and I hear, geez, that sounded like paper and cardboard, and really it wasn't. And it could have been something else, a pool line or anything else. So I would say, I have no problem listing who we think it is, but again,
We need to investigate.
you need to do, you know, I would say, I'm not gonna send you on a wild
Does
goose
that,
chase.
does that get you out of the
Yeah, I
FOIA
think that-
problem?
I think that gets us out of the problem, and it also gives us an opportunity, because one of the things that happens with the DEP letter doesn't have a lot of teeth. So I can call Scott and say, hey, man, the DEP gave me a letter again, the cardboard's, you know, you get a lot of cardboard in your load. All right. And then I call him a month later, it's the same
I think the
thing.
answer is just what Amy suggested, is when you get that ticket, if you can list approximately where those came from, we're not gonna go out on one ticket, but when we get 20 tickets and every
In the
one of those
same area.
tickets has a common name on it,
Right.
that's when we can act.
But you're saying you get a ticket once every day?
Almost
On the
every,
average?
almost every day, you think?
Well, once a week, probably.
Once a week?
Once a week, okay, it's a big difference than once a day.
Yeah.
You get a lot of angst when you get them, so.
Well, the town's gotten a few of them, and then.
And the inspector's not there every day either, Alan, he's there pretty regularly, so, you know, you gotta, it's not like you can dodge the guy, you pull him in, he's there, he's inspecting every load. Yeah, so maybe that's a fix, and that is a DEP thing that he gets a copy of.
And you wouldn't, I mean, it's not you, it's the hauler.
The haulers would not object to that?
The haulers wouldn't mind to, when Scott or whoever does an inspection, to say, we were notified by your hauler that it sounds like there may be an issue.
Well,
By your hauler.
honestly,
Cavosa
honestly,
Enterprises.
the honest to God, best thing would be if the DEP emailed him directly and said, hey, I had these trucks that have licenses in your community. It's very hard, because they wouldn't know.
That may be ideal, but
They picked
that's
up.
not, we can't tell the state to do that.
But you understand what I'm saying is, that's a document the state generates, I can hand it to him and say, here, this is where I think these came from. We want an opportunity to tell our customers, and we do that. We'll say to our customers, hey, you know, we picked up your stop, you get a lot of wine bottles, you might want to go to single stream. You know, think about single stream instead of cardboard. Oh, well, give me a price for this, this, and this. Okay, here's the price. I'm not doing it, it's not worth it.
So you would not mind embedding in this regulation a requirement to send a copy to the Board of Health when you get a ticket with those properties where you picked up for that load?
Their
Whoa.
best guess of
Best-
Best guess. You don't want 180 listed on that.
Best guess on the violator.
But we would give you best estimate of where that material came from.
So that's asking even more of you, I would think.
It is.
I know.
Because it's a
But
judgment.
I'm all for it.
George, it's asking more of me, but you don't have
I'm
a
not
gun to
putting
my
you in
head.
between.
Yeah, and you don't have me saying to my customer, hey, you gotta do this. Now, he can go out to my customer and say, or Alan can go out to my customer, and the customer could say, hey, look, man, I don't have enough recycling to do this. You're wasting my time, get out of my shop. And that's a conversation you can have.
At the same time, I mean, it's all hypothetical, but you could forward us this notice of violation, and you could say, you really don't have any idea where it's coming from.
I could, yeah, I could absolutely say to you, look, Alan, or, I mean, Scott knows me, I'm not, you know, if I'm gonna forward on the notice violation, I'm gonna say to you, look, here's where we were. Here's a good route, here's 20 stops. Check them out. There's 10 of them on here that I highlighted that you might wanna spend a little more time on. But for the most part, I'm gonna be honest with you, like,
But to your point, the regs have to apply to everyone, they won't all be the same as you, we're talking 10, 20 years from now.
Right.
So how do we write this in a way that actually would
Right,
require a reasonable effort, a reasonable due diligence?
so if the DEP issues you a, what is it called, what is the letter actually called, a notice of non-compliance?
Failed load compliance.
So if your dump facility, the town of Warren issues them as well, I'm sure the town of Falmouth's gotten some because.
Yeah, we got one recently for hazardous materials in a trash load.
Okay.
And, yeah, or mattress, I mean, you know, whatever.
Right, so whatever it is, so like a mattress is a lot of times easy. Well, I went to a place, I dumped, oh man, I saw it on the camera, it was a mattress, it was at Treetops, right, or whatever it is. So those are easy, you guys don't wanna deal with that, you'd be, that would be a waste of this time. And those are one-offs, right, George, that's just once in a while. What you wanna deal with is, we have a habitual guy who doesn't want to recycle cardboard. Okay, I can think of two, you know, that I would say, hey, go talk to these guys. You dump it, it's all cardboard, you bring it to the thing, and it's a violation, I'm getting a violation, I don't want a violation either. And we send it to the customers, but it's a monetary thing for them. And now it's a lot easier if he showed up on an inspection. A lot of these places, you gotta remember, you know, food service places, he's gotta do a health inspection anyway, maybe that's.
But like the all cardboard, you've got a contract, you and that business have a contract for all cardboard. And you're pricing it based on all cardboard, which is a higher
No,
value.
sometimes you have customers that just have trash.
Oh, yeah.
I only want trash, I don't want cardboard.
Okay, we're talking about okay, we're not talking about the bottles that are with the cardboard, you're talking about the trash that's with the bottles.
Right, no, I'm talking about, you go in to pick up a trash container, and you dump it, and it's
Yeah.
80% cardboard. That's a waste of his money.
Did you say that when you get one of those violation letters, you send it to the customer?
What we try to do is we take a copy of that letter, we file a copy in our office, and I can show you, and then we try to send a copy to who we think is the violator. That's our obligation for the DEP. So if I think it was George's barber shop, we'll either have one of the sales guys call George, hey George, the guys were there today, they dumped your load, we got a notice of non-compliance. You had some, oh yeah, you know what I did? I moved my daughter and I threw away a bunch of boxes. Okay, thanks George, that's it, it's over.
Does the DEP require that you notify them at the same time of who is receiving that letter?
So this is already a process you're going through. You're
Yeah, this is already, that's why I said to you,
these
you guys are
these
reinventing
customers.
this.
Right.
How many times a month have you gone to customers and said, hey, you think there's something wrong with your trash? That you got too much recyclables in your trash?
Well,
On the
whenever
average.
we get a letter, you know, so if we get a letter, again, it's hard, if you get a letter
Probably
today,
get one once a week.
I think
you
we
get
get
one
more
week.
than that, because I'm probably, it gives me
It
more.
lists
answer.
more than one load, the letter's once a week, but it has like 5 loads on it.
Oh,
So that is
so
a
they-
lot once a
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
But again, you guys have to understand that, when you see that letter, right, like I'm gonna, and this'll drive him crazy, is, when you see that letter, you can't automatically go, I got him,
That's true.
I'm gonna go, guy's got recycling. It's not recycling. I went round and round with the town of Bourne. We have a full compactor, and I don't wanna bring the customer up. I have a full compactor full of cardboard. It's full of cardboard, and we have to dump it as trash because it had beef, raw beef. up against the cardboard, which I never knew, okay, that's a problem. So, that was getting dumped as trash. Well, it is trash, it can't be recycled. But it's a violation. So I get a violation letter, I tell the customer says, yeah, we know, we've had the DEP out here, this is a problem. We have raw beef up against the cardboard, we cannot recycle the cardboard.
But that's the same issue that the homeowner has. I mean, we all know that you don't put pizza containers in the recyclables.
Actually, you can now.
That's changed.
That's changed. So long as you don't have, so long as there's no cheese hanging out.
Greasy ones?
No sausage, no cheese.
Hey, can you edit that
The
out?
whole thing, just
Even the
dump out
grease?
whatever's loose and the rest goes.
We're still trying to educate, little Grace, Mary, you can.
God, I finally got it to not put it in. Anyway,
State change,
All right,
the
so-
state changed
oh
the
gosh,
rule.
so, yeah. All right,
And what about if they have blood on them, maybe they can go?
Thank you.
no, all right, so we're gonna revisit this on November 7th.
And these things, just so
Everyone?
you understand, Kevin, is there's a huge economic impact to the customer when we dump it as trash. They don't want it dumped as trash. They want it recycled. They're taking the time to pull this stuff out, and they want it recycled. The recycling place is telling us, don't bring that back here. It's got raw beef up against the
Yeah.
cardboard, and the blood's in there, we can't recycle it.
Yeah.
So now we have to fight with the town of Bourne or with CMAS to take it. So there is an economic push to get people to recycle, and it works, you know?
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
we're gonna close the hearing for this tonight, and we will revisit on November 7th, 2022 at 5:30.
And again, I'm sending these files to Scott, both for the stables and for the solid waste.
So back to our agenda. Thank you very much, you guys. Back to our agenda, we're gonna, we had current local regs for septic on there as the next agenda item. Is there a motion?
To table this till next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Thank you. And any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that concludes our agenda items. Is there a motion?
I need a motion to adjourn?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Huh?